I told y'all, when I come back on here, I'll go in the game room. So let me go to the game room now. Before I go to the game room, take advantage of this here. Alright. But what we're gonna do now is horrible here, man. I'd call my boy up. What we did. Tell him how I'm feeling, cause it's messed up. Feel messed up. Let me look at it. So right now I'm playing on 2 games. I'm just gonna let them bring her into this game. And then I don't have to worry about broadcasting on my God character. I just get on my girl character. So I get ready to go to the game room with my God character. So when I go to my game room with my God character, I'm gonna talk to you people on Facebook. And see my girl's shirt. See they got on my girl's shirt? That's the Y's. That's the acorns. That's all the colors. She must wear the glasses, infinity. The 8. I'm just trying to tell you. Everything I do it where you can understand it too. It's time to just try to explain shit. Because if somebody can't explain what you believe in, they're bullshitting you to believe in it. I'm just telling you the truth so you can know it. I'm telling you ain't no bullshit to be believing in. I'm telling you it's something that you should know from within. Unless, like I said, you was brainwashed and never was told the truth. But it ain't your mom or your dad's fault. Because when you look at it, everybody's parents was lied to. But I still say to those of you who's working the listening devices, by this time they got ad written on this shit now. I ain't gonna talk about it now. I just thought about that shit. And they got no humans. Being human. They got some real machines doing this type of shit. This ain't no humanity. This ain't no man that's doing this machine doing it. Because there ain't no compassion and empathy in some men. But they ain't got y'all working. They on the board. I don't think that's possible. Or, I just thought about it. Some of y'all do anything for some money. I sent out to her house. Like that 4 pictures. See the butterfly? See the star on her forehead? See how they do shit? These some bad people, boy. But they use our symbols and shit against us. See, like all this shit. It's our shit. It's the people shit that they use on the people, man. They're using like witchcraft on us people to make us into the sheeple that we are. Talking that bullshit. Girl, hit that bomb. I'll put my song on there. Yeah, it's gonna hit again. I'll put my song on. Let's see if I can get my song to come on. Sit down, sweetheart. Watch the boy tell you planes up. We don't know kNOw channel. Acting a fool when it's being dealt to the card. Y'all shoot. Fuck all the bullshit. What we're gonna talk about right now is bullshit, knowing that they got a pill now that you can take and enlighten yourself to open up the channel of your mind. Now I guarantee you this pill is just like PCP, all the other shit that they was using, but it's a little bit more advanced. We're living in some bullshit times. Bullshit times, they know some bullshit ass people. I mean, they treat us like we raise sheep. And we are the people that need to grow to learn. So what today's thing is, today is the Sabbath, man. Today is the day where you supposed to chill the fuck out. Today is when your heart slows the beat down. I'm just saying, some of y'all know what I'm talking about. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. Some of y'all don't. Fly here, what? I'm coming. Let's go with B first. Some votes. I do want to pick A, B, and C. Now we'll do B, C, and E. Just ain't that one. Hit the brakes and tell you up. Want that thing to pick it up. Yeah, that's your bad. Here you go. Out. Why do you celebrate the divine creator within on Sunday? Because you was taught to. And come and find out that the Catholic Church is the one changing from Saturday, which is the divine day, like I said, when everything in the body slow down. Y'all seen the robots and shit? They got all kinds of shit. Can I walk back up here? I don't think so. But you bring the plane on down there. Bag it on down. Tag it on down. Get your plane on out of here. Fucking with them. That's the whole mission. We alright, bro. Oh, my bad.
You actually can? Yeah. Just like when I was talking to you there, I found myself getting quicker and quicker. When I took this job for the first time, I realised just how lazy I was. And I would never consider myself to be lazy before.
Do I think everyone should be allowed access to that turbo? Not really, because much like a turbo, it puts a whack of a lot of power on, and if you're not experienced enough to know how to handle that, it can get you into trouble.
I nailed off quite a lot of work the last few hours, but I feel like death. I'm so tired.
I think a wonder drug is a slight exaggeration of what it is. It can change some of our functioning of the brain, but it does not do wonders.
I definitely feel slightly more awake than I did before.
We perform better than 90-95% of the population.
But they won't take mushrooms away from people.
These are smart drugs. These are agents looking to enhance or extend our cognitive abilities or the repertoire of actions that we have. Basically, a series of drugs that people in homes, offices, and universities across the United Kingdom are using to apparently make their brain better. Many are drugs you might have heard of before, with conventional uses. Things like Ritalin, a drug usually used for ADHD and narcolepsy. Others you might not have, like phenylparacetamol, a drug that's now a banned performance enhancer. One of the most talked about and easily available smart drugs in the UK is a drug called modafinil. Used traditionally for narcolepsy, it's being sold all over the internet as a cognitive enhancer, a drug to make your brain work like no other.
It seems that modafinil is a cognitive enhancer, so it shows that there were improvements in so-called higher cognitive functions, like planning and decision making.
Modafinil has been labelled the world's first safe smart drug, with some studies suggesting it's non-addictive, has few side effects, and that it works. But can all this really be true? That's what I'm trying to find out. Okay, so at this point, smart drugs just seem like a drug. I've been reading reviews about them online, and some of them are just ridiculous. People saying they have written full university investigations in a matter of days. They have managed to do work that would usually take them a week in just one day, and that their overall concentration levels have just skyrocketed. To be entirely honest, I struggle to believe this because it just sounds too good to be true. So, what I'm currently doing is ordering some modafinil off of the internet, which is one of the main drugs people take. I'm going to take that drug this home to see if it works, basically. While I waited for my pills to arrive, I met up with an old friend to find out a bit more about modafinil. Jason is an athlete and entrepreneur, and it turns out he's been taking the drug I was about to take for years.
Well, y'all see the FDA doing y'all? Dumbass.
You actually can? Yeah. I got this forever. Just like when I was talking to you there, I found myself getting quicker and quicker. No, I did. Like, I felt like I was talking too quick. I was trying to get too much in. Describe what it actually feels like. So, like, without sounding weird, it sounded a little bit warm. Like, I feel a little bit warm. So I feel like my body temperature has increased. Just feel a little bit sharper. I think I could probably compare it to a camera that's in focus and a camera that's out of focus. I think normally maybe everything's a little bit softer. Right now everything feels very sharp. And when you first took it, like, was it an instant kind of effect? Yeah, I found the effect straight away. I found my productivity increased massively.
So they don't want you with no drug that can make you feel good and not do nothing. They'll give you a drug that makes you want to be up and working hard.
Slightly nervous for a number of reasons. I still actually take prescription drugs, especially ones that are opioids. I held off actually taking the drugs until the following day. I also considered the devil, but I was still taking a huge risk by taking the pills. I was heading to Cambridge University to try and find out how and if modafinil actually worked. They had agreed to also test me to see if it had any effect on my cognitive abilities.
Just tell me exactly how modafinil works. Do we know how it works?
Well, we know a lot about its actions in the brain. We know that it affects a lot of different neurotransmitters. But what we don't really know is which one of those effects has to do with the improvements that we see in people's cognitions. We know that it acts on dopamine and noradrenaline. It also seems to act on another transmitter, glutamate. And we think all of these are important for cognitive function.
Professor Barbara Sahakian has been studying modafinil for years, but says we still don't really know how it works as a cognitive enhancer. But she's saying it does work.
We need action movement.
That's what you mean by, do they make you more smart? They certainly might improve your ability to plan and problem solve, so if you can problem solve better. Are you getting smarter?
Professor Sahakian says the main issue is that we don't know the long-term effects of modafinil, and she wants the government to carry out studies to see if there are any. Should there be no major issues though, she sees a potential use for the drug society wide.
There you go.
After the interview,
She
I
can
was
get
taken
paid
into
about
a room to
2
do a
years
test.
once you think. Wonderful.
The whole idea is that we do one without taking it back and one with taking it back and then kind of compare that to Okay, so over lunch I took my first ever hit of modafinil, and I don't really feel that much difference. It's been about an hour now, or an hour and a half, and I feel pretty much the same. Although I do feel slightly more awake, but I'm just walking my dog for a little bit, so I'm better. But yeah, I'll keep it posted.
Score on the attention stats performed better than 95% of the population, whereas we weren't on that one. Performed better than 85% of people.
95% is that the version?
Yes.
That is good. It's better than 95% of like people my age.
Your age.
That's
unbelievable. And then yeah, it was about 85.
So it's gone up by like 10%.
3 hours just flew by in a matter of seconds, and I feel so much more awake, so much more focused and quite honest, to be honest. These tests must be taken with a pinch of salt. There are a number of other factors that could have contributed to my results, and it's a very specific scenario. At this point, I still needed to see how it worked in real life, and I shall find out it wasn't going to be all plain sailing.
If you're based in the UK, there's only really one place you can go to modafinil, and that is through some quite secretive websites on the internet. And this causes quite a few issues, besides the fact that you have to enter your credit card details into a website that has virtually no info. You also have no idea if what you're getting is legit.
It's not illegal to buy things like modafinil for yourself, only to sell them without a prescription. But that doesn't mean it's always safe to buy them online. You never know what you're going to buy at the end of the day. Look for it to the doormat. I have bought my modafinil from a website in India that even came with tracking information. I called up the pharmaceutical company that made it, and they said as long as it had their branding, it should be theirs. But they also said they don't sell items online. There are those, though, who sell modafinil illegally in the UK. Recently, on an operation, we seized over 20,000 units, including 13 different packs of potential medicine and operation. That was valued at over £200,000. And one of the drugs that was seized, the MHRA, the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, are trying to crack down on this in the United Kingdom. This year, in 2015, during one operation, seized over 46,000
One retailer who didn't want to be identified told me they get around the MHRA restrictions by labelling their products as not for human consumption and selling in bags as opposed to pills. As it currently stands, this makes life quite difficult for the MHRA.
Seems like you can get around these laws by making it seem as if it's for laboratory use, not packaging them in pills, and saying it's not for human consumption. So is that an issue in your eyes?
Yes, it is an issue, but what we do is when we come across these sorts of issues, we have other parts of the agency who make determinations on that, and if we can determine that is a medicine, then we will take action. As well as the large number of websites, there's also a huge number of forums dedicated to speaking about so-called smart drugs. On Reddit alone, there's an nootropics thread with nearly 65,000 members, and smaller threads with thousands of members each. One issue that keeps popping up in these forums is the UK's psychoactive substance bill, a bill that looks set to pass in 2016, that will put a blanket ban over any drug with psychoactive effect, and potentially a host of so-called smart drugs. So, after taking a look at the bill, I travelled to Nottingham to meet the co-owner of a British company that sells nootropics, to see what he thinks about the proposed bill.
So here we have my treatment therapy room where I do a little rehab, chiropractic adjustments, nutrition counselling and things like that. Okay. So that's the beauty of genuine nootropics. Because they're not prescription strips, it's very hard to overdose.
What has been done?
Some of the things that have been banned are genuinely scratching your head on, and some of the things that have been left are genuinely scratching your head on because they're the ones she's banned and they're the ones she's allowed through. Am I worried? No, because I don't seem to worry about it. We're reformulating Eurostim, our major product, to be more in line with those guidelines if and when the psychoactive bill comes online. I think it's a bit short-sighted and a little bit disturbing. But, you know, the powers that be will operate in a way that they see fit, not necessarily to the best advantage of the restricted way. It makes things hard.
After the interview, I contacted the Home Office. They told me that as many smart drugs can also be used for medicines, they would likely be exempt and will continue to be regulated by the MHRA. But as the bill is so
legal drugs
some
is
experts have told me that many
Some
simple
legal
smart
drugs
drugs
is
will be
push.
marketed.
The doctor.
Okay, so as you probably see here, I'm in the toilet of a train. And that's because
And they don't want to be a doctor, they're lying to keep quiet.
an initial phase of an injury.
This shit crazy.
All I'm currently on is a really bad headache, the need to urinate frequently, and no appetite. I feel a little bit sick, and I'm also very dehydrated and can't track water, which is possible. So yeah, it's not really going too well.
No. Took that bullshit down and killed him.
Okay, so earlier I was quite unsure as to whether kNOw was really doing anything and whether it had any effect on me whatsoever. But now I'm quite sure it probably is because I've been lying in bed for about an hour and I just can't get to sleep because my brain is just completely switched on. Modafinil is something often associated with students, but there are some in another less reported community that are taking it as well. The world of tech startups. Marcus is an active actor, and he started taking modafinil to get ahead of the game.
Hello. Hey, nice to meet you. It wasn't like I was taking a drug when it was giving me some kind of high and making me actually happier. But the feeling that I was getting a lot done was very exciting. Tell me what your frame of mind, just as I was trying to go into your head. Yeah. Frame of mind is very important. My frame of mind was, I need to create the next startup and make it work. I just experienced quite a big failure and I wanted to make a success instead.
So you started taking modafinil at the same time you stopped working at Liverpool?
Yes, and that's an interesting point. So when my startup kind of bombed, this is something interesting to think about. When it bombed, I was also feeling very, very low. I'm a very positive-minded person, so I instantly look for something to make me feel better about my life and my circumstances. So a theory I have is that when I took the drug for the first time, I may have subconsciously exaggerated to myself how much it was helping me because I knew it would feel better.
Because you're taking this to kind of get better, to be more productive, and in essence to be more successful. It hasn't shown any sign of doing that yet.
In terms of success in my life in general, no, I haven't suddenly gone from being a loser to a successful.
Okay, so it's my final day taking this so-called smart drugs. If there was any day for to make, this would be it. Not only do I look and feel horribly examples like I thought, I also have to spend the whole day editing this film, so it's to be done in 2 days, which is a lot of time. Editing is something I find notoriously difficult to stay focused on. And I figured if there was one day the pills would help, this would be it. But they didn't quite work as I expected. The game. The only real effect was a lack of hunger. Yeah, so still no tangible improvements in my concentration levels. But it's definitely taken away my appetite because it's on 2 grains to eliminate. As well as this, I got headaches and a very strange lump that appeared on my arm.
I've got like a weird kind of spot on my arm, I'm sure if you can see it.
This happened on the first day too, on the back of my leg. As the day progressed though, they seemed to kick in.
I got quite a lot of work done towards the end of the day, but it's just made me feel groggy and kind of awake and really tired at the same time.
At the end of it all, I met again with Jason, who said he'd never had side effects like mine.
We took like the exact same type of pills from the same company. You seem to have an enjoyable experience.
I don't know.
I got a weird spot on my arm, on the back of my leg, couldn't really sleep, have you had anything like that?
No, I've never had anything like that.
After taking a final blood test at the doctor's, I was told there was a chemical in my blood released when your liver is trying to push something out of your system. And so, my body didn't really like what I was taking. When it comes to smart pills, there's a lot left to be discovered. My experience on the drug was not what I expected. On the one hand, I was slightly disappointed I hadn't had the experience others had told me they'd had when on modafinil. On the other hand, though, I was relieved that for me at least, these weren't a super drug. It just means I'd never be tempted to try them again.
As it will show you how stupid people are when it comes down to want to be better than someone else.
Hi, this is Jonathan with Limitless Mindset, and this is my review of modafinil cat. Check it out. This is pharmaceutical grade modafinil from Sun Pharmaceuticals in India. So some people are a little bit confused by all of the names that this smart drug goes by. They hear modafinil, armodafinil, adrafinil, Vigia, Provigil, Modeler, Artvigil, etc. And I'll cut through a little bit of that confusion. A branch in the smart drugs tree of cognitive enhancers, and there's just 3 primary categories that you should be aware of, and really I think only 2 of those categories that you should really seriously consider consuming long-term as a performance enhancer. The 2 categories that I do recommend of it are modafinil and armodafinil, and then there's a 3rd category that I have some real reservations about called adrafinil. So before you take anything or order
Boy, look at your eye, boy.
to make sure that you know.
Look at your eye, man. Your eye ain't much straight, man.
Into. And then the second thing that you want to be concerned with is the dosage. You'll usually be taking 100 or 200 milligrams. And modafinil is one of the most popular cognitive enhancers in existence. It is sold in drugstores and pharmacies, or as they call them here in Eastern Europe, anoteca. all over the world, and it goes by a bunch of different names. And it's obviously for sale on at least a couple hundred websites that I've heard of on the internet. However, I think that modafinil cat is the best source of pharmaceutical-grade cognitive enhancers within those first two categories that I mentioned, modafinil and armodafinil. And I am actually going to do one now to perhaps pep myself up a little bit for a day of video blogging ahead of me. Check it out there. See, I chipped it. They chipped it just a little bit, but nonetheless, it's going to be a productive day for me.
Wow.
I did a really detailed 17-minute video breaking down what the human studies done on modafinil are saying about it. It goes pretty in-depth into the science, and I recommend that you watch that video before ordering or ingesting anything. This video is going to be more about the experience of modafinil and also some reservations that I actually have about this category of smart drugs. I've done modafinil 60 to 70 different times in the past 2 years, and I would actually do it more if I didn't have so many other smart drugs to self-experiment with. My primary reservation with modafinil is that it's kind of a way of cheating in your personal development. I take an apps versus OS approach to personal development. So let's use a smartphone as a metaphor for our minds, appropriate metaphor, right? We can either focus on installing apps, or we can do personal development by upgrading the operating system. Installing apps, for example, would be like learning a second language, acquiring a new career skill set, reading books, studying philosophy, getting coaching, writing daily, or getting into entrepreneurship pickup or social dynamics. The more apps you have, the more you can do. Or you can also do personal development by upgrading the operating system, which would entail a meditation practice, optimizing your diet, brain training with dual and back, which is a very precise example in our metaphor, because dual and back is literally like upgrading the RAM of your mind. Practicing memory systems, heart rate variability training, getting outside of your comfort zone, doing aerobic exercise 90 minutes a week to stimulate neuroplasticity, habituating your heuristic reactions, practicing arbitrary discipline, quitting your addictions or managing your vices, or taking nootropics and good supplements that feed your brain the nutrients that it needs. And there's a little bit of a debate as to which side of the spectrum you should focus on, the apps or the operating system, right? Should you focus on the inner game or the outer game? I'm really not sure. It probably depends upon the person. And you're probably thinking right now, well, isn't there like quite a bit of overlap in between the things that upgrade the operating system and also the installation of new apps? Well, yeah, there is some overlap. However, we've all known people that were overly biased especially on the apps side of things. They were like these people that are always like studying new things, and starting new projects, and like trying new things, but they just don't have enough discipline to accomplish very much. And these people will occasionally go through like these spouts of depression where they get really bitter about their lack of fruitful results from their efforts, and they'll get a little bit spiteful and they'll be like, fuck it all. And then a couple weeks later you'll hear from them, and usually they'll be announcing to the world on Facebook that they are starting a whole new project. So I think what's probably best is to try to habituate personal development on the app side and on the operating side. I did a podcast that goes a little bit more in depth into this concept that I recommend you check out. And modafinil really is neither. It doesn't serve either side of the personal development spectrum. It's a wakefulness agent and a short-term cognitive enhancer that gives you in between 6 to 12 hours on the high end, deep in the focus zone.
Well, you hear that boy talking, you ought to see that boy eye.
Dubious case that you hear people make sometimes that smart drugs like modafinil kind of train your brain by like pushing you a little bit out of your cognitive comfort zone, that they train your brain that it can focus better, and that they show you what it's like to have really world-class discipline, and that this makes you potentially a more focused, more disciplined person while you're off the smart drugs. It's kind of an interesting idea, but in all of my reading, all of my research, I'm really just not aware of any studies done on smart drugs that would substantiate this. Since it is so effective at boosting your operating system for 6 to 12 hours, it could actually kind of become like a crutch to your personal development. Why do all the hard work of meditation, and brain training, and exercise, and getting outside of your comfort zone, and learning difficult new skills, and forcing yourself to apply them in novel environments when you can just drop a pill and kick ass? Well, the answers to the rhetorical question I just posed are that, first of all, you don't want to be dependent upon a drug for state, for being in social state, being in a productive state, being in a focused state, being in a relaxed state. And the objective is to be a robust gangster in life, right? The objective is to be the master of one's own mind and be able to respond really adeptly with a degree of cognitive agility to whatever situation you find yourself in. And smart drugs can be counterintuitive to that. Second, if you focus on holistic personal development, you'll find that you actually get a whole lot better return on investment from the smart drugs and performance enhancers that you are using. You'll appreciate their effects a whole lot more. So I hope that if you do take advantage of this shortcut to personal development, that you balance it out with daily habituation of working on the apps and working on the OS. About some of the varieties that you'll find on modafinil caps. Modeler 200. This is 200 milligrams of the classic modafinil. 200 milligrams may be too much for some people, so you can cut it in half if you need to. The taste is quite bad, even with water. It's a tablet, so you are actually tasting the modafinil when you take it. I suggest washing it down with an equally strong beverage. Art Vigil 150. This is actually armodrapinil. Armodrapinil is pretty intense and anecdotally can cause some paranoia, which some people strangely enjoy. I did experience this to an extent myself, and for this reason, I would definitely not recommend armodrapinil to people that have any degree of emotional fragility. For this reason, also, when I do reorder from Modafinil Cat, I will not be reordering armodrapinil. My favorite modafinil stack is coffee, caffeine, and L-theanine. When I'm having a modafinil day, I will start with coffee. That's how I wash the nasty tasting little pill down, and modafinil takes a couple hours to kick in. For me, I don't find the combination of a cup or two of coffee along with modafinil overwhelming, but some people do, so again, I recommend starting with it, not a whole lot, and I always use L-theanine in combination with modafinil. Modafinil can be a little bit intense, which the L-theanine takes the edge off of, and modafinil is not great for creative work, not the greatest creativity agent, which the L-theanine makes up for. So I recommend this combination. Speaking of creativity, a lot of you watching this whose living depends upon your creative ability have a process to get into a creatively productive state, right? I certainly do. So that even if I don't really feel like that flow state, feel the muse of creativity kissing the back of my neck, I can still sit down and pound out at least a couple hundred words. However, there are some people out there that really do need that lightning strike of creativity mindset to hit, and for them, modafinil is not going to be a great job. What you're probably going to want to do is go find a swimming pool and fill it up with green tea, and then go swimming in it while having a cigarette, and that'll get you in the mood. The modafinil is probably not going to do the trick. Modafinil is a slower burning smart drug. A lot of times it will take sometimes as much as 2 to 3 hours to really kick in. I'll do it in the morning at 9 a.m. and by 10 a.m. I'll be feeling a little bit more energetic and focused, but it won't actually be till about noon that I find myself really
I was too far away from that thing to let it
10
blow it up
hours
like
of
that.
productivity out of a single modafinil tablet, which is pretty good. It's a pretty good value comparative to the cost compared with other smart drugs. In the past, I've worked as much as probably 12 to 14 hours thanks to modafinil. This go around, I haven't done that. I'm not sure if this is because I've just gotten a little bit more reasonable with my working hours, and I'm not allowing the pharmacological agent to enable my workaholism as much as I have in the past. Thankfully, this go around, moderate and partial vigil, I have not had any exhaustion-induced hallucinations as I did in the past with Vigia. I'm an open source website developer, and I feel like the gods of programming code, the ghosts in the machines, whatever you want to call them, I feel like they probably inspired the modafinil molecule specifically for programming and web development tasks. It really is ideal for knocking out a big project project or debugging something that's been really difficult. Sometimes there will be like a bug or an SEO task or something really technical that I'm kind of avoiding, maybe procrastinating on a little bit, and I will go down the modafinil rabbit hole and will often knock out a really fairly substantial task in just a matter of hours. Meditation is a bit of a challenge. I found myself slipping back into problem-solving mode when I was trying to focus on the blue sky mode of the blue sky protocol, which is where I clear my mind and objectively try to watch thoughts drift past. Usually I require audio amusement while I'm working in the form of music, podcasts, documentary films, audiobooks, audio programs of World War history, that sort of thing. Although when I'm on modafinil, I will actually find myself going 45 to 60 minutes or more in complete silence, just focused on the task at hand. What about tolerance and addiction risk? While all the experts and the research papers say that modafinil is exceptionally safe and has a very gentle tolerance curve, I'm not sure if I agree totally. For me, if I do modafinil more than 3 times a week, I start running into a tolerance curve. There were a couple times I did it like 4 to 5 days in a row, and by the final day, it was just not delivering that super focused, productive headspace that modafinil is so associated with. I found it somewhat addictive because I'm a workaholic and it increases my productivity sharply. I would have a really kick-ass day getting stuff done with modafinil, and then I would wake up the next morning and want to repeat that. I do biohacking consultation calls at least several times a week with people in our biohacker community, and alarmingly, about 25% of the people who I speak with personally that have actually tried modafinil describe it in less than glowingly positive terms. They tell me that they get headaches on it, they get brain fog on it, they lose motivation on it. They tell me that it's overstimulating for them sometimes, that it can cause paranoia, or that it's just an inconsistent productivity enhancer. So this is not my favorite smart drug, and it's definitely not close to the top of the list of things that I recommend to brand new biohackers. However, I think of a friend of mine in Connecticut who was talking over some beers with me, and he said, modafinil is really probably my secret weapon, and I make probably an extra 100K a year because of my frequent modafinil habit. So for those that it does work for, it can really be a game changer. There's a reason why it's the favored
Come on, man. Bullshit.
so word and also types of firms. Some people think it can be a really great biohacking cognitive capital. So you have to consider that a little bit in your list of your assessment of it. Some other negatives of modafinil. Spelling is not very often for some reason. I've noticed that it definitely increases my typing speed when I work for a minute, but my accuracy is not that great.
Fucking just do it. Fucking just like a
Teacher, Miss Wood,
I'm fucking how the boy eyes fucked up and how you talking.
also it makes me sweat, which is a little weird when I'm just sitting there on the computer not doing anything that's physically excruciating, and that's what I want. The bit worried about carrying nootropic white powders with me. It's in South America, it's just kind of asking for trouble. You never know when you're going to have a nice chat with a police officer. Whereas with modafinil, it just looks like generic medication. If you purchase at least $200 worth of product from Modafinil Cat via the links on this page, you are eligible for a 25-minute biohacking consultation call with myself. We can discuss modafinil, obviously. We can talk about different supplements that are complementary to modafinil. We can talk about creating a bespoke stack for your particular needs, challenges, whatever with biohacking. We can talk about brain training, meditation. We can talk about setting up proper self-quantification experiments so that you can accurately compare how beneficial one smart drug is for you versus another. You just need to spend at least $200 on Modafinil Cat, which isn't that hard. As you can see, it's not exactly a cheap smart drug. And then forward your receipt to consultations at limitlessmindset.com, and we can get on a Skype call this week. I'd love to talk with you. You'll see there that you can get 200 modafinil tablets for about $230, more or less. Pricing might change, who knows. I do recommend, if you're going to pick up that much modafinil, I recommend also picking up something that's a little bit more tranquilizing, like L-theanine, which
wow, this is crazy. When you look at what's going on.
I mentioned earlier, and I do suggest also, if you're going to do this biohacking thing, if you're going to invest a little bit of money in it, take it seriously and combine it with some brain training using the brain training app that has been actually demonstrated to have transfer effects, that it actually gives you some cognitive skill sets that are useful outside of brain training, which is dual and back. I suggest IQ Hit or High IQ Pro. These are apps, they work on your smartphone, they work on your desktop, and I will link to those below this video. I dare say that you will scare yourself with the cognitive gains that you'll see in the dual and back path when you are on modafinil. Pretty cool. Hey, here's another cool idea. You'll notice on the Modafinil Cat website that the largest package is a pretty significant savings. It's 300 modafinils for about $300, maybe a little bit more. What I would suggest is approaching about 2 other friends of yours who are ambitious, hardworking, sharp.
Boy, do you hear this boy promoting this shit to get y'all hooked on this shit?
And proposing to them that you go in on the largest package available.
Wow.
Modafinil together. So, 300 modafinil.
How many people you got?
That's well over a year's supply.
That boy got 11,000 subscribers.
300 of
Wow.
through airport security, or the borders, or even in my.
So you put links and whipping it back and forth. Have you ever seen Zach Evanesh? I don't know what's that. Oh, he's a trainer out of New Jersey. First of all, let me just congratulate him.
Yes, great name. What's his name again? Avanesh? Evan, that's a pretty great name. ESH, and he,
What's your name?
Zach Avanesh.
Why are you real?
Sounds like a fucking yeah, it does. You're right. Anyway, he uses ropes. He's a beast. Oh yeah, ropes are awesome. Medicine balls, another thing I've been using a lot lately. I just hired a trainer 2 months ago for the first time ever. I mean, I've used guys before, I've trained like Steve Maxwell, but I've never used a guy every week on a regular basis over and over and over again until I started using them. This is one of the shit. How did you choose him? Why did you choose him? His name's Justin. He's in my jiu-jitsu class. He's a high-level wrestler, Division I wrestler. He's a really talented athlete, and just went to school for it, and he's really passionate about it. And watching him train, he's like, this motherfucker's never tired. So I went to him. I'm like, what are you doing for training? Because when you're training, I mean, he's a brown belt. We're talking about he's training with black belts. He's training with Eddie Bravo. He's training with a lot of the killers that they have at 10th Planet. And I'm looking at this kid's endurance, and I am really impressed. This is like 4th, 5th roll, and he's going at a high clip. I'm like, you're doing something. Like, what are you doing? He's like, a lot of kettlebells, a lot of body weights, this and that. He's a trainer, so I had been doing a lot of it on my own before, but it's a big difference when you work out with someone who's fucking amazing. Yeah, he's got a lot of great ideas too that came along like while he was young, sort of like 26. So while he was learning, like a lot of within the last 2 decades, they made some huge strides when it comes to the actual work versus the actual result. Like what's overtraining, what's heart rate monitors necessary, let's monitor your entire system instead of just pushing you. Because there was a lot of like nonsense just pushing you in the past. And they sort of narrowed it down to a science. And the kids that are coming up now, that are going through like good Division I schools, they know what the fuck they're doing when they're training these kids. Oh yeah, they're professionals. Yeah, I mean it's
time machine.
You look at the vast majority of research on athletic performance over the last like 50 years. Most of it is in 45-minute and 90-minute intervals, so they had to design experiments that would allow people to, say, exercise for that period of time. Because what is that? It's a college, it's the length of a college class, and they were treating college students to participate as subjects for most of these. In other words, they didn't actually have the funding to study, let's say, the effect of 30-second sprints on aerobic capacity. Like there's a fantastic researcher named Gibala, Gibala, who's looked at how you could do 2 to 3 minutes of cumulative sprint time and increase your capacity, your endurance capacity as much as, say, 4 to 6 hours of steady-state training per week. What? Isn't that crazy? Yeah, it's amazing. And I actually started playing around with it. Like 120% max VO2 on a stationary bike for very similar to bottom protocol, but you're taking, let's say, 30-second sprints, and what I ended up doing was just taking very long rest intervals, 30-second sprint, long rest interval, almost. How long? I would do perhaps 6. Oh, are you talking about the rest period? I would rest 2 to 3 minutes. I do the exact same thing. I do less rest time. I do 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. Yeah. And I've been doing that for a while on an elliptical, full clip on an elliptical. Oh yeah. And it's just incredible when you start to see money coming into this research, partially because the technology, like wearable sensors and accelerometers and all this, are becoming big business. Nike Plus and all that. So there's a lot more cash than has ever been available for athletic performance enhancement. Dude, I'm still in the middle of the commercial. Oh, shit. ONNIT, use the code name Rogan, save 10% off any and all supplements. All right? We just drop some knowledge in the middle of the commercial. Let's start this bitch. Tim Ferriss has too much information. It's spilling out. He can't contain it.
The Joe Rogan.
We must release. Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night. All day. Proud of Tim Ferriss. He's dropping so much knowledge. People have known about this code. About this fact that one bigger drug. But this is something where you take it, and right, I feel more like myself than I have in a long time. My ability to focus, you feel limitless. And when I started taking this stuff, I was working at a startup that sold for about $600 million in value. And I was getting my MBA at Wharton and doing that in an executive program that was the same number of hours as a full-time MBA program. I was full-on balls to the wall. I wasn't succeeding in the classes, and there was something weird going on because I'm quantitative and I pay attention. I'm like, I sit down to take the test, and the first question on the test I get 100. Second question I get 700%. Second question 70%. Third question 30%. After that, 0. And something's happening here, and it's predictable linear decline in performance, and I feel helpless. And I'm actually scared. Am I going to graduate? Because something is crashing in my brain. I don't know what the deal is here. So I started, in fact, that was when I got my first brain scan with Daniel Amen. And it wasn't with Amen, it was with one of the people who trained with him for 15 years. And this guy was a psychiatrist. And it took one look at me, getting an MBA, working for time, I know you're type, you want Adderall. Like there are people who want Adderall for performance enhancement. Adderall's prescription methodology. So it kind of dismissively looks at me, and
like I said again, licensed drug dealer.
I think that's probably not right. So I come back and he looks at the report. There's 2 pages of bad results and all these red splotches on my brain because direct quote, inside your brain is total chaos.
Invisible woman. Oh, y'all saw that? Invisible woman.
My brain was not functioning very well. I was succeeding enough to graduate at Wharton, and I was at a startup that we sold for a lot of money. Okay, it's not like I wasn't performing. I was struggling greatly, and this is a really important point. Everyone listening to this, if we injected you,
invisible woman,
there are areas. Everyone has them, almost without a doubt. There's probably a few people with perfect blood flow and perfect metabolic activity everywhere, and they're probably the happiest, most successful people we know. But they're very, very rare. So we can all improve that way. I had a lot of them. So one of the things we saw that was like, good God, what drugs do you want? And we started out on Adderall. I took it for about a month and hated it. Adderall made me focus a little bit better. It made me angry, and it made it so I didn't want anyone to touch me. Like I would take it and I just want to go like.
You won't be bothered. You won't be bothered. He didn't want to be bothered. He didn't want to be bothered.
I don't think you can disagree. On the label, it said D-methamphetamine salts. Yep. Like it actually says it on the label. It is prescription.
I couldn't read that.
I wouldn't say that as a science.
You see, and that ain't self.
People
that can't read.
Pills that are also sold.
Nobody really explained it to them.
The
side effects to the drugs.
What I had was actually prescription.
Yep, prescription method.
It wasn't the Heisenberg drug. It's blue.
Right. Boy, it's some bullshit.
So you started with that, and then...
And I said, there is research on this new drug called modafinil. I really want to try modafinil. And we said, all right, it's a soft label, but we'll give it a try. And I tried it. I'm like, holy crap. Things are effortless. Like, I can pay attention again. Like, I got my brain back. This is amazing. And I was already taking a handful of other smart drugs that are less effective, but still very valuable stuff I still take today. This had brought my brain back online from where I'd been before, where I probably wouldn't even know to get into work. Like, I was zombified for a while.
Wow.
So I'm like, all right, this stuff rocks. And I took it just about every day. Maybe it's 50 kids here and there, but the vast majority of the time for 8 years. And it helped my career. It helped me graduate from business school. I actually felt a little bit guilty about it. And there's probably people in my class who would remember before a few of the tests, I would actually put the smart drugs I was taking on the desk in front of me. I'm like, I'm not doping. If you know what I'm doing, and you got people to do it too, then it's not doping. It's not cheating. And I still don't believe it's cheating any more than wearing a sweater on a cold day. Right, but it's just technology. What are you doing? So I took the stuff and it really, really helped my mental. It was amazing. Then I came out with those bulletproof coffee and bulletproof diet principles. I put them online for a couple of years before I wrote the bulletproof diet book. And there were a few critics who were saying everything you do comes from modafinil because there's a study that says it helps you lose weight. I'm like, you know what? This is highly unlikely. And there were a few people who said I was hiding it from them, even though I'd been on national news talking about it, which I always thought was one of the more bizarre criticisms of bulletproof. But
it was in your profile for a long time.
Exactly. I was like, everyone else in the Nightline piece was wearing paper bags over their heads because they wouldn't show their face. And I'm like, yes, I actually take modafinil. I'm okay with it. Like, it might help you too. So I consider it to be a profoundly effective drug for occasional use or for regular use if you need it. And it's changed many people's lives. And it's much safer than Adderall and much safer than Tylenol. But it does have some potential risks. They're small, though, compared to many of the drugs we have. So I looked at the criticism. I'm like, okay, maybe this is valid criticism. Let's do the experiment. So I went from that. And I did it while I was drinking bulletproof coffee, while I was eating the bulletproof diet, while I was avoiding the things that make me weak. And when I did that, I measured using a university-grade cognitive executive function kind of testing. And what I found is that when I was off of modafinil, my decision-making time was more variable. You couldn't predict how long it would take me. Sometimes I was very fast, sometimes I was longer. But my average decision-making time was similar. When I was on modafinil, my average decision-making window was smaller, it was more predictable, but my average speed was the same. Other than that, I felt good all the time. I didn't have that before when I started taking modafinil. I had the energy to make it through the day, to feel good, to play with my kids at the end of the day. This energy was not something that I naturally had before. Like, all right, modafinil isn't doing very much. Is there a modafinil in my bag right now? Yeah, there is. I just flew to London, or to Scotland, and in London. It's been a relatively intense trip. I actually just used bulletproof coffee and the normal stack of relatively lightweight smart drugs that I do every day. And the things I know about hacking light and temperature and all for jet lag. And you know what? I didn't need it. Right. But it was there if I wanted it, or if I was going to crash, I was like, man, I'm just too tired. Like, my brain isn't focusing. I really want to be present for the audience for this interview. I would have happily taken modafinil. So that's where I am in my relationship with it today. I'm grateful that people say, hey, everything you do, you scammer, it's because of modafinil. It really caused me to experiment with something that I knew very well. That's great. But when your brain is dialed in, when your nutrition is where it should be, when you're doing other things right, and probably some of the meditation and neurofeedback things I've done, I'm better performing now than I was, and so I use modafinil less.
Talk to me about how people can get really sensitive about what they call a drug and not a drug. Like you said, this is technology. To watch the rest of this fascinating interview, click on the link below and go to LondonRealAcademy.com. There you can sign in with your social media, log in and watch the rest of the episode for free, along with all of our episodes on London Real.
Did you know that taking antidepressants increases the risk of suicide, especially for people with bipolar depression? Here's the good news. An Israeli team of doctors and scientists have developed a life-saving drug. Dr. Jonathan Javid is here in the studio to tell us more. Thanks for coming in.
Well, thank you.
So to begin, what is NeuroX, this drug that you've created?
Well, NeuroX is the company, and the drug that we've created we call NRX 101. And it's the first antidepressant that's really targeted at the needs of people who have bipolar depression, especially those who have high risk for suicide.
So what is the difference between bipolar disorder and bipolar depression? Can you kind of also define what bipolar depression is?
So when we think about depression, most of us think about what we call major depressive disorder. And those are the 90% of people with depression who spend their lives going between a little bit sad and very sad. And they may spend their lives fighting depression, but in reality, they rarely harm themselves. On the other hand, there's this subset of people who have bipolar depression. They represent only about 10% of the whole population of people with depression. And they go between a life of very happy, sometimes too happy, and deeply depressed. Those are the people who are at high risk for harming themselves, even killing themselves. In fact, even though they represent only 10% of people with depression, 2/3 of all suicides occur in patients with bipolar depression. And in reality, we all know people like this. One of the best known people who died from this illness is Robin Williams. We all know the happy face that he put on for the public, but as you can see from what he said on NPR, when he was depressed, he was deeply and dangerously depressed and ultimately took his own life. So that's the face of bipolar depression. And current antidepressant drugs not only are contraindicated in these patients, but they may well increase the risk of suicide. In fact, there's a warning label that the FDA has put on every current antidepressant.
Interesting. So how did you come up with this idea? I mean, I know you're saying that there's this high suicide risk, but is there a personal story that's somehow involved?
Well, I didn't come up with the idea. This is actually 30 years of research into the chemistry of the brain that my brother Daniel Javitt began first at Albert Einstein College of Medicine and then New York University and Columbia University, recruited colleagues, including colleagues here at Herzog Hospital in Jerusalem, understanding the chemical pathways of the brain that drive this disease called bipolar depression. And as you can see from the picture, just about every antidepressant drug we know about affects what we call the serotonin pathway. Even people who are not doctors, who are not scientists, will have heard the word SSRI associated with antidepressant drugs. The problem is the serotonin pathway itself is not sufficient in these people who have bipolar depression and thoughts of suicide. There's a second pathway in the brain called the NMDA receptor that's never been targeted before in people with depression. But think of it like the brake pedal of the brain. In Hebrew, you might say the brake sim of the brain. And the problem is when this channel is wide open, thoughts are slowed way down. And those thoughts you have tend to be negative thoughts, and you can't get them out of your head. And all too often, they drive people to harm themselves. On the other hand, if you use drugs that solidly close the channel, and a very good example is ketamine. In fact, the first drug we knew about that closed this channel was called phencyclidine or angel dust, and it causes schizophrenia in human beings. Because when you close this channel too tightly, and it's a chemical pathway in the brain, think of it as a tunnel that lets electrons into the brain cells. When you close this channel too tightly, it makes you crazy. You have thoughts popping up all over the place. You can't control them. So the challenge is to find a happy medium. And that's what Professor Daniel Javitt was able to do in his laboratory, and that's the drug that's coming forward.
Right, and now that's what I want to ask you about. I mean, I guess you've kind of answered what the difference is, but can you kind of, right now, what is offered on the market to treat people who have bipolar depression, and how would the drug that you guys are now offering differ from that?
Today, there is no drug that is offered on the marketplace to treat people with bipolar depression and suicidality. In fact, people who fit that criteria have been excluded from the trial of every major pharmaceutical company, every major antidepressant, and the only treatment today that's actually indicated for suicidal bipolar patients is admission to the hospital and electroshock treatment. So we hope to be the first-in-class drug to take advantage of this pathway in the brain that's not been used before in the treatment of this disease, and to bring forward a life-saving drug.
Well, this is an amazing drug that you've created, and I'm really excited to see how you guys are able to implement and put it into action. And thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thank you.
Amazing bunch of bullshit. Now I'm about to hear the truth.
With type 2 diabetes, a lower A1C is a lot about choices, but it can be hard sometimes because different sides of you struggle.
So all they do is advertise drugs and shit to buy. Drugs and shit to buy. Drugs and shit to buy. Y'all can watch me all y'all want. Y'all can hear me too. Walmart coming for y'all. Think about it too. I got my videotape. How about you? You might have to get that videotape up, buddy.
Welcome to our program on the African connection to health and nutrition. My co-host today is Martin Bao, and joining us is Dr. SABB, Director of the Usha Herbal Research Institute and the Fig Tree Center. He was born and raised in Spanish Honduras. At the age of 20, he came to the United States. Over the past 20 years, he has studied herbology in the U.S., Latin America, the Caribbean, Europe, Russia, Asia, India, and finally Africa. Dr. SABB credits elder herbalist Mbolo of Africa with having the most profound effect on his herbology studies, thus giving birth to his controversial African herbal biomineral balance. Using the African biomineral balance diet, he has successfully arrested such pathologies as cancer, diabetes, leukemia, sickle cell anemia, heart dysfunctions, herpes, mental illness, and AIDS. Assuming these claims to be false, the Attorney General of New York brought SABB to court on charges of practicing medicine without a license. A jury found him not guilty. His victory in the New York Supreme Court has resulted in placing the African biomineral balance diet in the archives of the law of the land. Welcome, Dr. SABB.
Thank you.
How did you begin your journey on natural healing?
It began approximately 26 years ago when I was ill from birth. I had asthma. Then later I became a diabetic and impotent. So I visited the physician. I should. Everybody knows that you have to go to a physician when you're sick. So I did what everybody else was doing, which was consistent because that was the only thing I knew. So after many years of being sick, a friend of mine called me on the telephone and informed me about him, a Mexican, that he felt could have complimented me. So I drove to Guadalajara, Mexico. Saw the man. The man gave me a regimen of herbs, dietary program. Went back to Los Angeles. 97 days later, I didn't have any of the diseases that I went to him with. So I was very encouraged. At the time I was working at Martin Luther King Hospital. And I then decided to do research of my own to see what it is that I could have helped humanity with, whether I would do it as good as Alfredo Cortez or add to what he was teaching me, and he did for me. And that was, everything began at that point.
Dr. SABB? I can call you Dr. SABB, I think.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a question. In his book, Let's Get Well, Pablo Arreola states that people of African descent are not programmed or cannot digest milk, cheese, and other dairy products. Could you elaborate on this?
Yes, this is the reason for a stop.
When you think about it, you're doing lots of that we ain't supposed to be doing. We're doing good people. Like I say, we're doing a lot of things that we shouldn't be doing, people. Shit crazy when you think about it.
The African biomineral balance. When Mr. Pablo Arreola made a statement that we are not programmed to digest milk if you are of African descent, I understood clearly what he was saying, but many of the readers of the book did not, primarily because there is a part of this whole healing process that needs to be considered and was never brought to the forefront, whether that we were not as awakened or whether we just ignore it. That aspect is genetics. Genetics is very important because here Mr. Pablo Arreola is showing us that if your ancestors are from Africa, that your body is not programmed to digest milk, so there must be a difference with the African race and any other race of people. That is his genetical structure. And this is the very foundation on which the OSHA Research Institute has built its foundation, has built its edifice. And building the edifice based on genetics, then it necessitates a substance to be developed that would be consistent with that particular genetical group. This has not been considered by nutritionists or pathologists. And this is the reason why we at the OSHA Institute feels that they have not really arrived at a point that they could complement as well as they would like to, because they have not considered genetics. Genetics is very extremely important. Why? Because everything on the planet is constructed genetically different, placed in a particular environment and on specific geographies. Like for instance, we talk about genetics, environment, they all are related. Why? Because the gorilla lives in Africa where the temperature is warm. It's in the tropics. But we find another gene group, the gorilla. He lives in Alaska where it is very cold. So we find out that one gene could live in an environment the other cannot. We also find that the gene group, the difference, could ingest certain substance, not so for the other. We are using the gorilla and the polar bear, for example. Again, the polar bear could ingest meat, and it would be proper with his dietary program and consistent with his biological and genetical structure. As for the gorilla, he cannot ingest meat. It would be adverse to this particular gene. Why? Because he was not programmed or constructed in such a way. He lives in the forest where it's tropical. Your brain would not accept seeing a polar bear sitting under an acacia tree in the Serengeti Plain in the month of August. Your brain will tell you that this is something that is uncosmic, that it is impossible. Again, we go to another structure. We go to the birds. The eagle, it eats meat, but not a quetzal. The quetzal does not eat meat. Yet they both are birds. One eats meat, the other eats fruit. So, we go to the plants. The plants also shows us that there is a genetical marriage to the whole cosmic arrangement of things. The plant, take for instance, the burdock. The burdock plant is a plant that lives in the temperate region. Its structure allows it to live in the temperate region. But as for the kalawala lives in the tropical region of the planet. The environment is not temperate, it is tropical, so it can live. So the plants are showing us that they too obey this cosmic arrangement. As for the food of the kalawala, we find that it lacks potassium phosphate. That is the predominant mineral.
How can y'all think right if y'all ain't eating right?
It is iron. So we see that
how can y'all feel right if y'all ain't eating right?
Just like the quetzal and the eagle, like the gorilla and the polar bear, we have the kalawala and the burdock. They eat different foods and they live in different environments. So now, we find that in nature there is and there should be an obedience for one to live to the optimum level of life. One has to be obedient to the cosmic arrangement. Like the plants, the animals, the birds, the gorilla. Now we go to the Homo sapien. As we take a close look at the Homo sapien, we find that he is the only one that feels that he is not bound to such law. And in feeling that he is not bound to the law of life, he have committed various violations. Like for instance, with genetics. We are talking about genetics because it is important to know what food is consistent with the so-called black race. If the foods of the gorilla and the polar bear is different, the quetzal and the eagle, then naturally it is necessary to understand that if it applies to all of the living species, whether plant or animal, it necessarily applies to man. And when we look at the whole table of nutrition that we, the so-called black people, have been presented with, we find that we're eating the same food as the Chinese or European and Arab. Then when in reference to medication, we also are given substance that everyone else receives. So we see where there is a gross inconsistency. It is genetics that is not considered, and this is the reason why many reports that have left the Usha Research Institute, the reports such as having the ability to reverse pathologies such as sickle cell anemia, blindness, and AIDS, and the rest, was because we consider an aspect of this journey that has yet to be considered by others. We talk about genetics because it is at that very point that everything is understood. Once we understand what complements and what doesn't complement, then we are on a journey to this thing we call healing. Because genetics was the most important aspect of it, and we omitted, didn't know, or whatever reason. But it was at that very point that we embarked on the journey of the African biomineral balance that was supposed to complement the genetical group of the so-called black man. With the birth of the African biomineral balance, we found that what is known as disease was not really disease. It was the manifestation of erosion caused by malnutrition. Malnutrition primarily among the African people. We were taken away approximately 400 years from our environment and from our food. Now put that into a meaningful equation and let us see what we're going to arrive at, that we will be able to help in the understanding of this thing we call nutrition and healing, because this is the subject. As we look at diets, we have to talk about the yin-yang. The yin-yang is a diet that we are told is composed of 4 yin and 1 yang, or 4 alkali and 1 acid. We find the other diet, which is the Ayurvedic. They too recommend rice, and they also recommend clarified butter, which is another substance that is acid. We find out the microbiotics. I remember when the diet first came out, I was very enthused to see what it was that they could possibly have within their structure. And when my friend came back and told me that the primary substance that was consumed in the microbiotic diet was rice, then naturally it was open for question. When we talk about a diet and we include rice, then we are seeing an acid substance. The African biomineral balance, which came to complement the African genetical structure, not only does it complement the African genetical structure, but it complements every gene on the planet, because it is the only diet that has been put together without the presence of lactic, carbonic, or uric acid. These acids are responsible for the amount of deterioration that occurs in the body. These 3 acids causes what is known as uncontrolled mitosis. So when we ingest foods that contain these acids naturally, we are running into trouble. This is why we had to create the African biomineral balance. The African biomineral balance is known as natural vegetation self-food.
So your premise is that there is definitely a relationship between geography, genetics, and food.
Of course, if we take a look at nature, we will find that the polar bear was given his food and was given the environment that is consistent with him. It is always cold, but he's given a coat to absorb that cold and to live in harmony with it. And he's given the seed and the rest of the fish. We find the gorilla. He lives and eats bamboo shoots and berries. And where he lives isn't white with snow. It is green. There is a connection with diet, geography, environment. Of course, there is a very close connection. But this connection was not really identified with prior healers. You see, to heal, you have to put into motion everything that makes up this whole cosmic arrangement.
Yep.
If one component or one area is omitted, then naturally you will run into some trouble later on. Because the reason for this is that life creates and protects and sustains life. If you operate outside of life vernacular, then naturally common sense tells us that we are operating outside of life vernacular. Then what vernacular are we operating in? The vernacular or the environment of death. Sure, there is a direct link with environment, food, and genetics. There has to be.
This is because of this premise of genetics that you have created the African biomineral balance. And if so, could you explain what's the difference between the African biomineral balance diet and the other health diets on the health market?
Well, in my previous statement, I said that the difference is that I mentioned one of the differences. Like, for instance, we talk about the rice, and we talk about the soybean, which are acids, which are part of the microbiotic. We talk about the yin-yang. The yin-yang also shows us rice, and the Ayurvedic and the allopathic. So we show that portion of it, but the other side of it is that the African biomineral balance was constructed using substance that came from the environment, the same environment that the black man was placed in by creator and creation, which is the tropics, the rainforest. Naturally, the substance would necessarily have to come from the same environment from whence he came, so that it would have the same electrical value. So we constructed it by creating these compounds, such as the Maya, as known today. We have the lympholin, and we have the Nervino and many other products. But they were constructed, or the compounds were made of herbs that came from the tropics that are very high in alkalinity. We find such herbs as the cocomeca. We find herbs, the corazon de Jesus, which is very, very high in food. So right there, we are not following the same premise as other herbalists. Why? Because they use comfrey, they use peppermint, they use foxglove, and all these are hybrid herbs, which are incomplete molecular structure. An incomplete molecular structure is something that was created through hybriding. Hybriding means that you're going to create something that was not created by Mother Nature, and that you want to fit that within this cosmic procession. No. If it was not created by Mother Nature, then this substance should not be included in this whole procession because it would cause an imbalance. And as we look closely at hybrid food, we find that everything that is hybrid needs a binder, and the binder is always a chemical. So therefore, we find things that would never assimilate with you. You see, we come into the process of assimilation now. We left the African biomineral balance encompassing all of the elements. Naturally, we have to talk about everything because everything is interrelated and everything complements. So we find out that in arranging the diet, we have to consider everything that could be of usefulness, and we have to know of everything that was not of usefulness, like the usage.
With type 2 diabetes, a lower A1C is a lot about choices, but it can be hard sometimes.
Stop eating the bullshit. That's the choice that you got.
Comfort contains starch. Starch is carbonic acid, but you find that many people who call themselves dietitian or herbalists, from a natural perspective, they use comfort. They also use, well, like I said, foxglove, which is a very poisonous plant because it is a hybrid plant. According to nutrition, in reference to nutrition, we have to now use substance that everybody eats, but we have to select from that group of foods that we call foods, the green leafy vegetation that would do the least amount of harm to the individual. Because we know that the compound that was constructed using the earth from the tropics would deliver the kind of nutrients and energy the body really needs. And these other things that we recommend, such as the broccoli and the lettuce or spinach, you know, we also recommend the quinoa. These things are merely to satisfy those 400 years of conditioning. Because we are people that like to eat now. But we are faced now with a catch-22, as we call it, that if we want to eat the food that we like, we're going to get sick. And if we want to eat the food that we should eat, we're going to be angry. So there is a process now of weaning from that particular diet that hurts the body. So we move you gradually away to the state of not eating. And it's not difficult. Don't even be surprised that such statement is made. It is possible. But before then, we have to gradually remove you. But first, remove you from all of the meats because of the high cholesterol. And we all know that. The American Medical Association is telling us about the things that are harmful to our health, and that there's so many diet-related diseases that has been cropping up over a period of time. So we allow you to eat substance on the market that would not harm you as much as others. One that the African American should not consider at any time is carrots, because they too contain a high level of starch. And because our genetic structure is so high in carbon, we are very sensitive people. So whatever there is that is inconsistent with us, it will have an adverse effect on us immediately. And something like starch has played not too much of a very well gift, or it didn't play a good role in our daily life. And I could talk about starch because I was born, as you know, in Central America, in Honduras, and I watched my grandmother, my mother, my parents eat a lot of starch. And there is a tribe of people that I notice, that I know, the Garifuna, and they too eat a lot of starch. But then I look at the various diseases that they are beset with. Their high incidence of diabetes. I just recently left Honduras, and I remember a friend of mine by the name of Juan Gomez. We were on the ships together when I was a merchant seaman. And we talked of many things, and lo and behold, I had not seen this man in 20-some odd years, and I saw him in Honduras, in a little village by the name of Santa Rosa de Aguan. And he was always touching his eye. He was wiping his eye. And I saw his big stomach, his belly, and then I also noticed the way he walked. And I was very hurt because Juan and I are the same age. So I know what starch has done to the black race, to the African genetic structure.
Let me interrupt you for just 1 minute. I think you stepped on a number of toes back there. You said the one thing that we shouldn't eat is carrots. And a lot of people who are trying to change their diet and go into a more healthy diet, one of their mainstays, I know I, for one, did this years ago, carrot. And carrot juice was one of my mainstays. And I'm sure that there are going to be a number of people that are going to be highly upset with that statement of not eating any carrots at all.
I could understand, and I would empathize with them. Of course, they have been told that carrots are good for you, that carrot contains vitamin A and whatever carotene it contains. But carrot is not a product of life. Only the product of life could assist you. Only a product that was created by life could assimilate in you and render good. And how do we know what is created by life and what was created by a laboratory? Well, everything that nature creates comes, it starts from the ground and it matures, and then it comes to the seed. And the seed goes back and incubates in the soil. And the following year, you have another plant like the one that just dried up. And that is continuing throughout creation. There is a seed that represents that particular product. As for carrot, it does not have a seed. A pellet is made. I gave a lecture on WLIB, and they disagreed with me at WLIB, and the public disagreed with me. Well, of course, I have to accommodate that, because the information that they got about carrots and about certain foods were not as consistent as they believed they were.
But I'm a little confused. You say there is not a seed for carrots?
There is no seed for carrots. In fact, 1 year after I gave that speech at WLIB, Nova came with a program and stated that not only was it artificial, but it was made in Holland. I didn't know it was made in Holland, but I knew it was artificial because, you see, I am one that could not have drawn his premise or his material from the quantum theory. Why? Because I didn't go to school.
Yep.
You see, by not going to school, naturally, I had to draw from a different premise,
yes,
from a different perspective.
Yes.
If I was a product of the quantum theory, then I would have built the foundation of Usha on a mathematical or philosophical foundation. But it was built on a natural foundation. So, building this institute on a natural foundation, it means that I have to look at things from a natural perspective. And when I look at nature, nature just doesn't create starches, number one.
Yep.
And nature reproduces herself without the aid of a man. Of course, I make that statement.
Since we are going the relationship between food and disease, could you then tell us what is disease?
Sure.
Mucus.
That should have been the question to ask when we first went to see the physician or the healer. What is disease? We want to know what is disease, because if we do not know the causes of disease, then it would be impossible for us to zero in on a meaningful cure or any cure at all. What is disease? The doctors never told us, but we kept going back to him. Now the question is asked to the Usha Institute. The question should have been answered by the anthropologists and the archaeologists. Why wait for the healer to come? Because if we are diseased and we are unaware as to the cause of our disease, then whatever comes after that means absolutely nothing because our bodies are sick. Disease is when you have ingested a substance that was uncomplimentary with your genetic structure. As for the black man, his is mucus. Disease is the cause of, mucus is the cause of all disease. This was the question posed to me in court.
Hello, you're through to Merriweather Security Consulting. What can I do for you?
These claims and why were we so successful and what was going on? Is that disease was never identified.
Thank you. A helicopter is on its way.
Identified, then the question would not be asked now, and then we all of us that are sick would be enjoying health. Well, disease is the accumulation of mucus, breaking down the mucous membrane, and that mucus covering groups of cells in your body. Like, for instance, we have the mucous membrane in the body to protect us from the onslaught of the aerobic bacteria, as they're called. But this mucous membrane is for protection. But now we eat acid food.
Get back out of the way!
Acid food breaks down the mucous membrane and does cause it to flow with the blood, covering other groups of cells now. Groups of cells that belong to organs, depriving them of oxygen. If the mucus goes to your nostrils, they call it sinusitis. If the mucus goes to your bronchial tubes, it's bronchitis. If the mucus goes to the lungs, it's pneumonia. So we have 3 different diseases caused by what? Mucus. So what about when the mucus goes to the prostate glands? It's prostatitis. What about when the mucus goes to the uterus of the woman? That's endometriosis or vaginal discharge or yeast infection. So we have this mucus situation now that is caused by an inadequate diet. Mucus is the underlying cause for all disease. And this is where we specialize at the Usha Research Institute in making those compounds to aid the body to remove the mucus from itself.
Let me ask you this question. When someone comes to the Usha Urban Research Institute and they've been diagnosed by their doctor as having the AIDS virus in their body, are your dietary recommendations and herbs that you prescribe for them, are they any different from what you would subscribe for someone who has a different disease like sickle cell anemia? Is there any difference?
There is no difference. There is absolutely no difference. And this was shown to me in St. Croix, where the Usha Research Institute opened its doors for the first time under the name of the Fig Tree at 429 King Street in Frederickstad, St. Croix. 3 people came to see me. One had diabetes and blind and delirium tremens, which was Miss Margaret Allen. And then we had another gentleman by the name of Flores Archias with gout. And then we had another lady with arthritis, with Sylvester. And they noticed that they had the same compounds in front of them. Flores Archias said to me, I think you're making an obvious mistake. I said, why? He said, because I didn't come with the diseases that all these other people have. One is blind and diabetic and delirium tremens. I don't have that, but I have the same balls they have. Sure. I have to cleanse.
I hope you enjoyed the ride.
Whether you have AIDS, blindness, diabetes, or whatever disease, the cells are now obstructed with mucus. Like in the case of AIDS, the only thing I have to do is to give you an increased dosage of lympholine that is going to revitalize the lymphatic system. Sure, it is the same treatment. It's the cleansing, an intracellular cleansing coupled by the African biomineral balance. This is for every pathology or irritation presented. Yes, we get the same treatment.
This article in the Amsterdam News states that MRI, a former sickle cell patient, after being on your dietary regimen, has been cured of sickle cell. If so, how come the medical world does not know about all these miraculous cures?
Well, it could be attributed that the very premise that they uses, the usage of carcinogens and inorganic substance. could be undermining their profession. But if we look at the history of medicine, we find that the credit was given to one Hippocrates as being the father of medicine. Didn't he build the foundation of medical science by using herbs to reverse pathology? Sure, he used herbs, and he was successful in removing all pathologies. But he used herbs. So if the father of medicine used herbs to remove pathology, then why should the physician use chemicals today? That question should be asked of them.
No.
What is the reason? Now, as for the miracles, the herbs assimilate because they contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. This is the vehicle that would allow any substance to assimilate within your biological structure. The presence of carbon, that only comes from the plants. It does not come from some oxide or inorganic substance. But as for Miss Emerite and her sickle cell, the mucus was invading her blood plasma, breaking it from a circle into a sickle, allowing oxygen and iron to escape. That is one of the things that we also found in our journey into this thing we call the African biomineral balance. It's that, like the burdock eats iron and the kalawala phosphate, potassium phosphate, the black man needs large amount of nascent iron. That is his mineral. Like iron is consistent with the burdock, like bamboo shoots and berries are consistent with the gorilla, all plants that contain iron is consistent with the genetic structure of the black race. In the case of Miss Emerite, iron was missing in her diet, not only in hers. Every so-called black American or every so-called black man throughout the world is lacking of iron. So what did we do? We cleanse the cells of the blood, cleanse the cells of the bone, cleanse the cells of the spleen, thus allowing rejuvenation in the organs that are responsible for delivering good, healthy red blood, and giving the blood its strength by going again to the tropics and getting the herbs such as the mucilin to make compounds with other herbs which are potent to rejuvenate the cells of the blood. And 2 months later she came back and said that her sickle cell had disappeared. But this is the problem that is besetting Africa also, not only Miss Emerite, every black living person. But not only did she have sickle cell, she told me that she was suffering with thalassemia, which I was unaware of, and I didn't care, because she was going to undergo the same process as everyone else. She said her thalassemia had disappeared. But then she found out later when she was in Los Angeles that she ate something that I recommended to her not to eat, and her body went back into the same state that it was prior. But she changed her diet again, and again she saw where her body was back in normal state. So it shows that the diet of the African American, especially the black man, has to be considered now. Has to be considered because it is one that has never been presented to us. And it's very crucial.
That's bullshit.
Not only with the sickle cell, with any other pathology.
Well, it certainly sounds like you know what you're talking about. Your concepts are very interesting, and they make a lot of sense. Can you explain to me why the newspapers, I want to show you some headlines in some of the newspapers, phony AIDS doc is ordered to stop. There's another one. AIDS doctor banned from medical practice.
And the doctor just told me I was HIV positive, and I wasn't.
And AIDS good for self-treatment, and below that is felonious herbs. A herbalist who claims to cure AIDS is mad. He called arrest racist and a smear campaign. And last but not least is Herbal Research Institute is being discredited. It sounds as though these institutions were out to get you. And I would like to know why it is they brought you up on charges, Was there any kind of investigation made at all in the claims that you made?
There is a kind of mania that exists on the planet today that prevents truth from being accepted, because the untruth is moving at such a tremendous momentum that truth now is in a very precarious position at this time. Because why? Example, I am the citizen of a country, and I have been engaging in certain practices of this thing we call nutrition and healing. And people that has been serviced by the Institute have claimed to have all these things reversed, and it's published. Instead of arresting this individual, it should have been investigated. Well, this is like ideally speaking. But we do not live in that society today, in such society that is ideal. We live in one that is full of anger. I was not surprised that the Attorney General would arrest me. In fact, the police, when he came into this place, he drew his gun, and I asked him, why did he have his gun drawn? He said, to surprise me. I said, but I've been waiting for you for 18 years. So you're the one that's surprised, not I, because I knew you was coming. Why? One is that there is great amount of money involved in natural healing that would deprive the pharmaceutical laboratories, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because there's money to be made of those chemicals. But are we going to sacrifice the life of America and the world for the sake of chemicals? Isn't that another catch? Sure, he had to arrest me. Maybe in favor of the chemical people. Or maybe it is that he didn't know. Or another is that he placed me in the category of the previous healers that came. They didn't do anything. They didn't make any claims. They didn't do anything. So naturally, if one out of a flock of people that has not shown anything or stood up for their own rights, if they had accomplished something, well, he just part of the pack. And I was not in disagreement with the Attorney General, because he did his job. But it was his mistake by assuming that I was part of the pack. I am not part of any pack. Never has been, never could be.
Well, so that, in other words, what you're saying is they just assumed that you were a fraud.
They assumed that I was a fraud.
Why didn't they at least, were there any tests or any analyzations made at all, either on their part or on your part?
Again, I did not expect them to analyze the product or investigate me. I never expected that, because that is not the interest of the Caucasian. That should not be.
Merriweather, because security is a private matter, what can I do for you?
His interest is himself.
An air unit's on its
And
way.
he's right, 100%. I was waiting for somebody from the black so-called community to be interested. Favorable. But then I heard that all the doctors in Holland condemned me to the penalty of villainy and wrong. So I was caught between a rock and a hard place. But I was comfortable, because I knew that this existed. So what the Attorney General did was consistent. He was protecting he called himself, he was protecting the
Please, clear the LZ.
Which is his job. But he should have investigated the Asia Research Institute before arresting me. The ad read, AIDS has been cured by the Asia Research Institute, not SABB. SABB is only a member. My wife plays the most important role, because she's the one that makes all the compounds. And she's the one why I am sitting here today. Because I was a steam engineer, very comfortable. She was the one that started healing all these diseases and doing all this stuff and having me here now in front of the world. But she's back in Puerto Rico having a ball.
Did you do any lab tests at all on your part? Because if you come out and make statements contrary to what the establishment makes, you should have at least backup proof to prove the statements that you're making, knowing that they're not going to go along with what you're saying. Did you do any of that?
Well, of course. We had a product sent to Lancaster Laboratory where you would see that the amount of minerals and chemicals that they found in our product was over and above that which was in the market. So they too agreed that it could have been a possibility that this thing had the power, the energy to do what we said it was doing. But what they found in the laboratory that I was charged with was practicing medicine without a license. That was one of the charges. And in that, what happened, they found that the product contained calcium, phosphorus, ovarium, gold, silver, protein, whatever they mean by that, and all the other substances that makes up the whole structure of life. So it did not fall in the category of practicing medicine. These are herbal compounds known as natural vegetation cell food. The other ones were that all of the diseases I claim I cured, well, the people came to the courthouse and you all gave testimonies, all of them did, so that was also dropped. So it was a mass confusion. It's not that he was, I suppose many people want to claim that he was deliberately angry with me personally. I guess he thought he was doing this job well, when he was not.
What is the difference between your herbal vegetation food and the food we normally eat, such as hamburgers, fried chicken, chitlin, or even those who consider themselves vegetarians? Could you explain the difference?
Well, those foods, as you know, they contain acids and carbohydrates, and some people prefer to use those food groups to attain whatever mineral or nourishment they need. The difference with the USHA compounds and those other foods is that the USHA diet, the USHA compound does not allow the body to accumulate cholesterol, triglycerides, calcium carbonate in the body, which obstruct and causes all of these ailments that we call disease today. The difference is they have cholesterol and grease, and many of them are hybrid. With the USHA diet, no. We have a group of compounds that is free of all carcinogens, plus the cholesterol.
Many people who have very little or no knowledge of natural foods and natural healing ask questions such as these. What are herbs and where do they come from?
Herbs are part of the kingdom of the plants.
Can you believe they let me
I
fly
don't know why
customer
they're
on
called
my
herbs.
first day?
But maybe because of the character, a tree lasts forever when it grows, matures. An herb goes regeneration every year. So it drops to seed. It matures. Where do they come from? I don't know where herb comes from. Where does anything come from? Nature created everything. We know that these things are here. I would never make any attempt to try to even give anyone a conception or misconception that I am placing myself in the same environment as others, as answering such a question by where do they come from? Where did the elephant come from? No one knows that.
Are colonics part of your intracellular cleansing?
Well, no, I could not consider colonics because it's going against the grain. First of all, you are pushing water.
You still have to pay full price, you know!
The sewer line, water that will contaminate the colon. You would put bacteria in the colon that was never there before. Life form. They're not bacteria, but they're life form that was never in your body because you have a protective measure, the mucous membrane. Then you have the hydrochloric acid in the stomach that protects you against any invasion as far as your intestinal tract. But now you're bypassing those safety mechanisms, going against the grain and pushing water at 15 pounds per square inch pressure, thinking that this is going to remove disease. No, you have just caused other diseases by admitting into the body of someone those aerobic bacteria. And now they're going to find seed in there because the water is not sterilized. No, I could not consider this thing we call colonics. It's impossible.
How do I begin to start healing myself naturally?
Well, for one, you begin by abstaining from the foods or group food that you've been ingesting, allowing the body to release all of what it has accumulated over the years, such as someone that I know someone that eat pork all their life. Now I saw him just recently, Gustavo, and he's fat. So he has to fast. So he's fasting and taking the compound. You begin the cell regenerate. The cell heal themselves by allowing oxygen. See, what you do is to fast to allow oxygen to enter those various organs, to reach them via your arteries with the blood. The nasal passage has to be clear because oxygen is the real food. It's the fuel of the body. Deprived of that for 2 minutes, you will not live to tell the story.
So what are some of your future plans for the Usha Urban Research Institute?
Well, naturally, we plan to open a holistic center in Central America in the middle of the rainforest. And the reason for that is that when someone is suffering from this thing called disease, it is best to have them in a controlled environment where they will receive only the things that the body needs and that they will be distracted. They will not be distracted from the noise and the invasion. Because when you start eating foods that you're accustomed to, once you smell them, it's going to trigger off a mechanism of the brain. Then the hormone is going to begin to demand of you that you ingest these things and eat them. But no, in the forest, you get the benefit of not smelling those things and also getting the herb fresh to you. Very fresh to you. Like we're going to open the place in Santa Cruz, in the beautiful lush forest, which you'll be getting pure oxygen. Then you have on the property a waterfall that is delivering water straight from Mother Nature to your cells that has no chemicals. That is necessary. That is our plan. But as you know, it requires a lot of time, energy, and also finance. We are new. But this is our future plan to develop.
In closing, Dr. Saban, what would you say is the most important issue facing black people regarding their health and well-being in a world that's overwhelmed with sickness and disease?
What is the most important thing at this point has always been the most important thing, our health. Instead of us entertaining history and anthropology, we were supposed to be entertaining health.
Yep.
Health now meant that we had to follow the same road our ancestors lived in Africa. So right now, it is our health. Our health is the most important thing. Our health is what will bring us together. Our health will have us loving ourselves and others. But as for the meantime, our health has been disregarded. And then we have fed mathematics and anthropology and archaeology. Our health is most important. Without that, nothing could be achieved. Yes, and in so doing, we have to consider mineral. Again, remember what I said. Iron. Large doses of iron. And abstain from those foods that are inconsistent as much as we possibly can.
Here, could you speak of your devoted wife, Ma'a? Could you please elaborate and tell us what role she played in your healing journey?
She played the entire role. Because when it was presented to me, like I was a steam engineer, and she came into my space and have complimented me, and now she's complimented the whole world. People know me as Dr. SABB, but she makes all the compounds. It is not I that you drink. You drink what my eye makes. But I expected that because a woman, she's always wiser and stronger than any male. And I never forgotten what my mother told me, that I could not be greater than the person I came out of. So I could not be greater than Ma'a. So Ma'a sit down in the corner and allow me to present this to you. But I am not the sole responsible individual for this particular journey. It is my wife, Ma'a. She made it possible for these things to be created because she began manufacturing them. She began seeing people while I was still an engineer. So having this kind of wife, I guess, it helps the individual. But then, as a male, I had to recognize that Ma'a had just as much or more to offer than what I had to offer. And in recognizing this, the woman, the black woman, naturally, it was easy for me to submit and to reap the benefit from such position, because I could be in error. And if she is obedient to me, she would collaborate with my error, only because she may not want to really hurt my feelings. But then in so doing, she hurt the whole family. Well, I was fortunate that I met a woman that is uncompromising. She compromised to no male, and that's including me. She is my mate, partner, which I love very dearly and love very much, and understand even more than my love. So it is Ma'a that deserves the credit. And it began with the treating of the people, introducing this, began with Usha, my little girl, when she was born. That's when the journey of healing began, because Usha is the name of the little girl, my daughter, that represent the name of the Institute. So all of these people that are not here to receive the credit that everybody wants to give me that I don't deserve, they are always in the background. Yes, my wife played the most important role in bringing this subject of healing. And this is another level of healing that we need to explore, is to understand our woman, is to see her and compliment her. She compliments us. Our job is to compliment her. Again, remember what I said in looking at Mother Nature for the answer. The beaver does not build the dam. Nope. He cuts the tree down. No. It is the female that builds the dam. She knows how to build the dam. It is the female bear that builds the dam. So it shows consistency. So I was fortunate for me, and those of us who have received the benefit of what she herself, Ma'a, brought, that we get to know her, and that I share this space with her. And I am so grateful, because I do not feel like a healer. It is Ma'a, the healer. Yes, everything is due to her.
Well, we want to thank you, Dr. SABB, for sharing such valuable information with us. And it's overwhelming. Your healing journey has been overwhelming.
It was my pleasure and my duty. Thank you.
Thank you. For those of you interested in securing a videotape of the African Biomineral Balance video, you can get it at 616 Pacific Street, Brooklyn, New York, 11217. For further information, call 718-230-7676. And I want to thank the audience today for allowing us to disseminate this valuable information to you. We hope it would be of value to you. As much as we enjoyed giving it to you, we hope you enjoy receiving it. Thank you.
Yeah, with your kid. Ain't nothing. That's all she cares.
Hello. Welcome to our program on the African connection to health and nutrition. My co-host today is Martin Bauer, and joining us is Dr. SABB, Director of the Usha Herbal Research Institute and the Fig Tree Center. He was born and raised in Spanish Honduras. At the age of 20, he came to the United States. Over the past 20 years, he has studied herbology in the U.S., Latin America, the Caribbean, Europe, Russia, Asia, India, and finally Africa.
Just because I won't get in the car with him.
SABB credits elder herbalist and Bolo of Africa with having the most profound effect on his herbology studies, thus giving birth to his controversial African Herbal Biomineral Balance. Using the African Biomineral Balance diet, he has successfully arrested such pathologies as cancer, diabetes, leukemia, sickle cell anemia, heart dysfunctions, herpes, mental illness, and AIDS. Assuming these claims to be false, the Attorney General of New York brought SABB to court on charges of practicing medicine without a license. A jury found him not guilty. His victory in the New York Supreme Court has resulted in placing the African Biomineral Balanced Diet in the archives of the law of the land. Welcome, Dr. SABB.
Thank you.
How did you begin your journey on natural healing?
It began approximately 26 years ago when I was ill from birth. I had asthma. Then later I became a diabetic. Impotent. So
I ain't no new that Dr. SABB.
The physician.
Talking about that bullshit that y'all eat.
Everybody knows that you have to go to a physician when you're sick. So
Yeah,
I
man.
did what everybody else was doing, which was consistent because that was the only thing I knew. So after many years of feeling sick, a friend of mine called me on the telephone and informed me about him, a Mexican, that he felt could have complimented me. So I drove to Cuernavaca, Mexico, saw the man. The man gave me a regimen of herbs, dietary program, went back to Los Angeles. 97 days later, I didn't have any of the diseases that I went to him with. So I was very encouraged. At the time I was working at Martin Luther King Hospital, and I then decided to do research of my own to see what it is that I could have helped humanity with, whether I would do it as good as Alfredo Cortez or add to what he was teaching me, and he did for me. And that was, everything began at that point.
Dr. SABB? I can call you Dr. SABB, right?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a question. In his book, Let's Get Well, Pablo Arreola states that people of African descent are not programmed or cannot digest milk, cheese, and other dairy products. Could you elaborate on this?
Yes, this is the reason for establishing the African Biomineral Balance. When Mr. Pablo Arreola made a statement that we are not programmed to digest milk if you are of African descent, I understood clearly what he was saying, but many of the readers of the book did not, primarily because there is a part of this whole healing process that needs to be considered and was never brought to the forefront. Whether that we are not isolation or whether we go to milk. That actually is genetics. Genetics is very important because here Mr. Pablo are really showing us that if your ancestors are from Africa, that your body is not programmed to digest milk, so there must be
Nah, man, they closed it down a while back. And I was just telling another guy, while we were going to homeless shelters, we've always done because we still don't know what happened to homeless people after
the Crucial Research Institute has built its foundation.
I still don't know what happened to the homeless people that were picked up after Harvey.
The edifice
Yeah, some of them still missing.
Then it necessitates a substance to be developed that would be consistent with that particular genetical group. This has not been considered by nutritionists.
What you say? Yo. Huh? Get you, him or me? Oh, okay. Yeah.
in an environment we have to collapse. We also find that the human being, the brain, will ingest certain substances, not good for the eye. We're using the gorilla and the field operator, for example. Again, the field operator could ingest meat, and it would be possible diet for the program, unconsistent with his biological and genetic structure. As for the gorilla, he could not ingest meat. It would be unfit for this particular program. Why? Because he was not programmed or constructed in such a way. He means the majority of the practices. Your brain is not a set in a field operator. The general tendency is something that is unconscious, that is impossible. Again, you go to another structure. You go to the belly. The eagle. The beak. Meat has not touched the stomach, but the process happens. Yet the belly, a belly, wants to eat meat. So, you go to the plant. The plant also shows us that the food, genetically started to improve the belief of the plant. The plant is going to the burdock. The burdock plant is a plant that lives in the temperate region. Its structure allows it to live in the temperate region. But as for the Colorado lives in the tropical region of the planet. The environment is not temperate, it is tropical, so it can live. So the plants are showing us that their breathability is constant arrangement. As for the third of the Colorado, we find that it likes the larger phosphate. That's the predominant mineral. As for the burdock, it is hydrogen. So we see that both plants obey just like the quetzal and the eagle, like the gorilla and the feline bird, and the rock. They eat different things and they live different environments. Similarly, we find that in nature there is and there should be an obedience for one to live to the optimum level of life. One has to be obedient to the optimum arrangement. Like the plant, the animal, the bird, the gorilla. Now we go to the Homo sapien. As we take a close look at the Homo sapien, we find that he is the only one that truly is not.
Boy, everything's done, son. Everything's done. Everything's done.
Piece of garbage! I got you covered!
I'm even over here waiting to make sure this one here be done too. I'm over here to take a picture of it. Why don't you kill that boy? The other one blowing up by this hotel with all these police around. Some boy snuck up behind me. I'm over here with that other dude supposed to blow it up. I'm right here behind him. He ain't gonna blow up. And I don't even see him. And I don't even see him. What kind of shit is this? Dog, the dude ain't much up there, dog. What kind of bullshit is this? Huh? But I still see his red dot. Cause we still got two of them on the screen still. Right now we shouldn't have none on here but one. But he got 4 on here with 2 minutes left. Bullshit. Man, the fuck? Oh, alright, on a whole nother street. That bitch done got away. Alright, you did that. That was gangster. On a whole nother street, dog. How you do that? And look, and she just sitting there. I'm gonna take a picture of her. How she walked all the way over here? That's bullshit. I'm about to kill him on bed right now. Huh? I'm just saying. She walked all the way on the other street, hiding out in the park. I mean, in the middle of a person on what do you call that? There? Fuck, that was crazy. I want to know. Dog, I'm trying to tell you, she blowed up, and I went, what the fuck happened? You see what I'm saying? So she blowed up to that position over there. But I'm glad I'm broadcasting because they get to see this crazy shit. Look, yeah, he had to leave. Yeah, he's doing a free bit. Oh, you got that last one? Shit, he taking his own good time. Huh? Right. Man, that's stupid. He was right there by the dude. Why didn't he blow it up? That's stupid.
binoculars, common sense tells us that if you're operating outside of light binoculars, then what binocular are we operating? The binocular or the environment that shows there is a
My God carried me sitting by himself.
environment, food, and genetics.
Oh, well, shit, I just do this last one with y'all. Did I go back to where I was? Oh, all right. Hey, that's on you, however you do. Hey, it's on however you do, dog. I'm going to finish this one here with you. Whatever you do after that, that's on you. I'll be there chilling.
We talk about the right.
All right. All right.
Which are part of the microbiology. We talk about the yin yang. The yin yang also shows us right. So we show that portion of it, but the other side of it is that the African binomial balance was constructed
Was.
that
And you had just got ready to do it, huh?
the same environment that the black man
Oh, all right.
is being by creator and creation, which is the tropics, rainforest.
All right. And you ain't, but you still, like I said, if you felt like it was a possibility that you can lose your shipment, you could have easily quitted it. Because see, like with me, a dude just came in while I was sitting in. Huh?
As known today, we have the lymphatic and we have the nervine and they were constructed on the compounds were made of herbs and the tropics that are very high.
It didn't work.
After this, we find
Boy, that boy blew you up. Yeah, do it.
we find the corazón de Jesús, which is very, very high food.
How did that boy go all the way around there to get in the goddamn car?
We are not finding the same premise as other herbalists. Why?
I said, why did that boy take so long to get up in the car?
They use peppermint. They use sassafras. And all these are hybrid herbs.
I know you blew his car up. And didn't he want to come over there and shoot at your car after that? I ain't gonna lie, see, cause he ran over my girl, I wish he would've came and got in this car. Cause he came and got in this car, I lived there and booted him out in front of all them. Cause you already know they gonna kill him. They got one more life though. Yeah, cause that was 24,000 we just fucked up.
In arranging the diet, we have to consider everything that could be of usefulness, and we have to know everything that is not of usefulness, like the uses of comfort. Comfort equals starch. Starch is all like that. Strictly from the
right.
Traditional herbalists, not the perspective they use from. They all use, well, like I said, sassafras, which is a very poisonous plant because it is naturally found. So you have three different diseases caused by what? Mucus. So what about when the mucus goes to
Well, who this dude is in the car with me then?
what about when the mucus goes to the uterus of the woman?
Yeah, one of the dudes that when y'all was shooting. Yeah, the dude came and jumped in the car with me while y'all was shooting. Oh, all right. I wonder who the fuck they was.
We specialize at the Blucher Research Institute in making those compounds to aid the body.
Nah, he didn't get out. Alright, I see another route. They got another place.
Let me ask you this question. When someone comes to the Blucher Research Institute and they've been diagnosed by their doctor as the AIDS virus in their body, are your dietary recommendations and your prescribed for them,
Huh?
are they any different from
No, I'm going to see what it is first. I ain't about shooting nothing up. I'm letting him come shoot up shit. Yeah, I'm just like the boy said, I'm just passing through to see it. I'm just passing through to see what it look like. Look. Just passing through to see what it look like. It's horrible too. They on bikes and cars and everything else. Look, they on bikes and everything. Look. I got this dude on a bike shooting at me. Throw it down, dog. That's kind of crazy though, dog. You on a mongoose. I'm saying he on a mongoose. I'm in a straight up on my car and he shooting me while he on a bike. Somebody else just killed him. His own people killed him. You heard me? I'm looking at this. That boy shooting, his own people shooting. Wow.
Give you an increased dosage of insulin that is going to revitalize the lymphatic system.
Boy, that's doing the car shooting. Alright, that's doing the car shooting.
This is for every pathology or irritation presented. Yes, we do the same thing.
This article in the Amsterdam News states that MRIs of after being on your dietary regimen have been cured of schizophrenia.
Appreciate it, fam.
How come the medical world does not know about all these miraculous cures?
Well,
yeah, game free, motherfucker. Let's go.
The very premise that they use is the usage of carcinogens and inorganic substances. If the underlying their profession. But if we look at the history of medicine, we find that the sense of given to one hypothesis as being the father of medicine. So we need to break the foundation of medical science by using herbs, research.
I'm letting that boy kill everybody. That boy been done. Huh?
All right.
That question should be asked again.
Yeah. I'm talking about the dude that's in the car with the dude you was talking about, the driver with the little pea shooter. That boy shooting him. Yeah, he's still riding with me.
But one thing that we also found in our journey into this period of African body is that like the Bora, iron, and the Kalawala phosphate, the phosphate, the black man needs large amounts of latent iron. That is his mineral. Like iron is consistent with the Bora, like bamboo system berries are consistent with the gorilla.
Hey, pork chop, get the fuck out of here.
Iron is consistent with the genetic structure of the black berry. In the case of Miss Emerald, iron was missing in her diet, not only in hers. Every so-called black American or every so-called black man throughout the world is lacking of iron. So what do we do? We cleanse the cells of the blood, cleanse the cells of the bone, cleanse the cells of the spleen.
Families in this motherfucker, let's go.
Allowing rejuvenation in the organs that are responsible for delivering good, healthy red blood, and giving the blood its strength by going again to the pockets and getting the eggs, such as the nucleus, to make compounds that on the earth which are protein to rejuvenate the cells of the blood. And 2 months later, she came back and said that such a thing is good. But this is the problem that is besetting Africa. Actually, not only Miss MLA, every black living person. But not only did she have sickle cell, she told me that she was suffering with palliative, which I was aware of. I was scared because she was going to undergo the same process that we went at. So I got a feeling that was scared. But then she found out later when she was in Los Angeles that she ate something that I recommended her not to do and her body went back into the same state that it was diet. She changed her diet again, and again she saw that her body was back in normal state. So it shows that the diet of the African American, especially the black man, has to be considered now. Has to be considered because it is one that has never been presented to us. And it's very crucial, not only with the sickle cell, with any other device.
So the first sound like you know what you're talking about. The concept is very interesting and it make a lot of sense. Can you explain to me why the newspaper, I want to show you some headlines of the newspaper, saying AIDS died is only percent. There's another one. AIDS doctors banned from medical practice. And AIDS gives a self-treatment, and below that is felonious AIDS. An evidence between cure AIDS is now because arrest racist and smear campaign. And last but not least is Herbal Research Institute is being discredited. It sounds as though these institutions were out to get you. And I would like to know why it is they brought you up on charges. Was there any kind of investigation made at all in the claims that you made?
There is a kind of mania that exists on the planet today that prevents truth from being accepted because the untruth is moving at such a tremendous momentum that truth now is in a very precarious position at this time.
No, you heard that, boy.
Because why? Example. I am the citizen of a country, and I have been engaging in certain practices of this thing we call nutrition and healing. And people that have been serviced by the Institute have claimed to have all these things reversed, and it's published. Instead of arresting this individual, it should have been investigated. Well, it's like ideally speaking. But we do not live in that society today, in such society that is ideal. We live in one that is full of anger. I was not surprised that the Attorney General would arrest me. In fact, the police, when he came into this place, he drew his gun, and I asked him, why did you have his gun drawn? He said, to surprise me. I said, but I've been waiting for you for 18 years. So you're the one that's surprised, not I, because I knew he was coming. Why? One is that there is great amount of money involved in natural healing that will deprive the pharmaceutical laboratories, I suppose, because there is money to be made off of those chemicals. But are we going to sacrifice the life of America and the world for the sake of chemicals? Isn't that another catch? Sure, we have to arrest him, maybe in favor of the chemical people. Or maybe it is that he didn't know. Or another is that he placed me in the category of the previous healers that came. They didn't do anything. They didn't prescribe. According to nutrition, in reference to nutrition, We have to now do substance that everybody eats, but we have to select from that group of foods that we call food the green leafy vegetation that will do the least amount of harm to the individual. Because we know that the compound that was constructed using the earth of the tropics would deliver the kind of nutrients and energy the body really needs. And these other things that we recommend, such as the broccoli, lettuce, spinach, we also recommend the quinoa. These things are merely to satisfy those 400 years of conditioning. Because we are people that like to eat, but we are faced now with a catch-22, as we call it, that if we want to eat the food that we like, we're going to get sick. And if we want to eat the food that we should eat, we're going to be angry. So there is a process now of weaning from that particular diet that hurts the body. So we move you gradually away to the state of not eating it. And it's not that only will be surprised that such statement is made. It is possible. But before then, we have to gradually remove you at first, remove you from all meats because of the high cholesterol. And we all know that. The American Medical Association is telling us about the things that are harmful to our health, and that there's so many diet-related diseases that have been popular over a period of time. So we allow you to eat substance on the market that would not harm you as much as others. One that the African American should not consider at any time as carrot, because it teaches us high level of stuff. And because our genetic structure is so high in carbon, we are very sensitive people. So whatever there is that is inconsistent with us, it will have an adverse effect on us immediately. And something like starch has played not too much of a very well gift, or didn't play a good role in our daily life. And I could talk about starch because I was born, as you know, in Central America in Honduras, and I watched my aunt, my grandmother, my mother, my parents eat a lot of starch. And there is a class of people that I notice, that I know, the Garifuna, and they too eat a lot of starch. But then I look at the various diseases that they are beset with. There are high incidence of diabetes. I just recently left Honduras, and I remember a friend of mine by the name of Juan Gomez. We were on the ship together when I was a merchant seaman. And we talked about many things, and lo and behold, I have not seen this man in 20-some odd years, and I saw him today. I didn't put his arm in my stand, but this will be a lot. And he was always touching his eye. He was wiping his eye. And I saw his big stomach, his belly, and then I also noticed the way he walked. And I was very hurt because Juan and I are the same age. So I know what starch has done to the black race, to the African genetic structure.
Let me interrupt you for just 1 minute. I think you stepped on a number of toes where you said the one thing that we shouldn't eat is bread. And a lot of people who are trying to change their diet and go into a more healthy diet, one of their mainstays, I, for one, is really a carrot. And carrot juice is my mainstay. And I'm sure that there are going to be a number of people that will be highly upset with that statement of not eating any carrots at all.
I do understand, and I will sympathize with them, of course. They have been told that carrots are good for you, that carrots contain vitamin A, and whatever carotene contains. But carrot is not a product of life. Only the product of life could assist you. Only a product that was created by life and when they do it. And how do we know what is created by life and what was created biologically? Well, everything that nature creates comes, it starts from the ground and it matures, and then it comes to the seed. And the seed goes back and incubates in the soil. And the following year, you have another plant like the one that just dried up. And that is continuing throughout creation. There is a seed that represents that particular product. As the flower, it does not have a seed.
This fucking no stupid, man. Oh, that fucking
I gave a lecture on WLIV, and they disagree with me at WLIV, and the public disagrees with me. Well, of course, I have to accommodate that, because the information that they got about carrots and about superfoods were not as consistent as they believed they were.
Yeah, I mean, you say that it's not a seed for carrots?
There is no seed for carrots. In fact, 1 year after I gave that speech at WLIV, Nova came for a program and stated that not only was it artificial, but it was made in Holland. I didn't know it was made in Holland, but I knew it was artificial because, you see, I am one that could not have drawn this image or this material that the quantum field. Why? Because I didn't go to school. You see, by not going to school, naturally, I had to draw from a different premise, from a different perspective. If I was a product of the quantum theory, then I would have built the foundational feature on a mathematical or philosophical foundation. But it was built on a natural foundation. So, building this institute on a natural foundation, it means that I have to look at things from a natural perspective. And when I look at nature, nature just doesn't create starches, number one. And nature reproduces herself without the aid of the man. Of course, I make that statement.
Since we are talking relationship between food and disease, could you just tell us what is disease?
Sure. That should have been the question to ask when you first went to the physician or the healer. What is disease? We want to know what is disease, because if we do not know the cause of disease, then it would be impossible for us to zero in on a meaningful cure or any cure at all. What is disease? The doctors never told us, but we kept going back to them. Now the question is asked to the Usha Institute. The question should have been answered by the anthropologists and the archaeologists. Why wait for the healer to come? Because if we are diseased and we are unaware of the cause of our disease, then whatever comes after that means absolutely nothing, because our bodies are sick. Disease is when you have ingested a substance that was uncomplimentary with your genetic structure. As for the black man, his is mucus. Disease is the cause of, mucus is the cause of all disease. This is the question supposed to be in court. That why were we making these claims and why were we so successful and what was going on? Is that disease was never identified to us. If it was identified, then the question would not be asked now, and then we all of us are sick. We'd be enjoying health. But disease is accumulation of mucus, breaking down the mucous membrane, and that mucus causing groups of cells in your body. Like for instance, you have the mucous membrane in the body protected from the onslaught of the aerobic bacteria that they are called, as they are called. But this mucous membrane is the protection. But now we eat acid food, and the acid food breaks down the mucous membrane and does cause it to flow with the blood, covering other groups of cells now. Groups of cells that belong to organs. depriving them of oxygen. If the mucus goes to your nostrils, they call it sinusitis. If the mucus goes to your bronchial tube, it's bronchitis. If the mucus goes to the lungs, they didn't make any claim. They didn't do anything. So naturally, if one out of a flock of people that has not shown anything or stood up for their own rights, if they had accomplished something, well, we just fall apart. I was not in disagreement with the Attorney General because he did his job. But it was his mistake by assuming that I was part of the past. I am not part of any past. Never has been, never could be.
So that, in other words, what you're saying is they just assumed that you were a fraud.
They assumed that I was a fraud.
Why didn't they at least, were there any tests, any analyzations made at all, either on their part or on your part?
Again, I did not expect them to analyze the product or investigate me. I never expected that, because that is not the interest of the Caucasian. That should not be his interest. His interest is himself. And he's right, 100%. I was waiting for somebody from the black so-called community to be interested, favorably. But then I heard that all the doctors in Holland condemned me to the penalty of taking the law. So I was caught between a rock and a hard place. But I was comfortable because I knew that this existed. So what the Attorney General did was consistent. He was protecting he called himself, he was protecting the clients, the population, which is his job. But he should have investigated the Usha Research Institute before arresting me. The ad was aids and controlled by the Usha Research Institute, not SABB. SABB is only a member. My wife plays the most important role because she's the one that makes all the compounds. And she's the one why I am sitting here today. Because I was a steam engineer, very comfortable. She was the one that started healing all these diseases and doing all this stuff and how we hearing out in front of the world. But she's back in Puerto Rico having a ball.
But did you do any lab tests at all on your part? Because if you come out and make statements contrary to what the establishment, like, you should have at least backup proof to prove the statements that you're making, knowing that they're not going to go along with what you're saying. Did you do any of that?
Well, of course, we have a product sent to Lancaster Laboratory where you would see that the amount of minerals and chemicals that they found in our product was over and above that which is in the market. So they too agree that there could have been a possibility that this didn't have the power, the energy to do what we did it doing. So what we found in the laboratory that I was charged with was practicing medicine without a license. That was one of the charges. And in that, what happened, they found that this product contained calcium, phosphorus, odium, gold, silver, protein, whatever we mean by that, and all the other substances that mix up the whole structure of life. So it did not fall in the category of practicing medicine. These are herbal compounds known as natural vegetation cell food. The other one was that all of the disease I claim I cured, well, the people came to the courthouse and they all gave testimonies, all of them did. So that was also dropped. So it was a mad confusion. It's not that he was, I suppose many people want to claim that he was deliberately angry at me personally. I guess he thought he was doing his job well when he was not.
What is the difference between your herbal vegetation food and the food we normally eat, such as hamburgers, fried chicken, chicken, or even those who consider themselves vegetarians? Could you explain the difference?
Well, those foods, as you know, they contain acids and carbohydrates, and some people prefer to use those food groups to attain whatever mineral or nourishment they need. The difference with the Usha compounds and those other foods is that the Usha diet, the Usha compound does not allow the body to accumulate cholesterol, triglycerides, calcium carbonate in the body. It obstructs and causes all of these ailments that we call disease today. The difference is they have cholesterol and grease. and many of them are hybrid. With the Uchi diet, no. We have a group of compound that is free of all carcinogens plus the cholesterol.
Many people who have very little or no knowledge of natural foods and natural healing ask questions such as these. What are herbs and where do they come from?
Herbs are part of the kingdom of the plants. I don't know why they're called herbs, but maybe because of the powerful, a tree lasts forever when it grows mature. An herb goes with generation every year. So it drops the seed, it matures. Where do they come from? I don't know where they come from. Where does anything come from? Nature created everything. We know that these things are here. I would never make any attempt to try to even give anyone a conception, a misconception that I am placing myself in the same time as others. I'm answering such a question like, where do they come from? Where do they come from?
Say something, you really bullshit. You're doing walking my time?
Well, no, I could not consider Pilates because it's going against the grain. First of all, you are pushing water against the sewer water that will contaminate the colon. Bacteria in the colon that was never there before. Life form. They're not bacteria, but they're life form that was never in your body because you have a protective message, a mucous membrane. Then you have to have a buric acid in the stomach that protects you against any invasion by the intestinal tract. But now you're bypassing the safety mechanism, going against the grain and pushing water at 15 pounds per thinking that this is going to remove disease. No, you have just caused other diseases by admitting into the body of someone those aerobic bacteria. Now we're going to buy seafood there because the water is not sterilized. No, I do not consider this thing without blood. It's impossible.
How do I begin to start healing myself?
Well, one, you abstain, you begin by abstaining from the food that you've been ingesting, allowing the body to release all of what it has accumulated over the years, such as some of the I know some of the people folk all their life. Now I saw it just recently, we started and we fast. So you have to fast. So you fasting and taking the compound. You begin to self-regenerate, the cells heal themselves by allowing oxygen. See, what you do is to fast to allow oxygen to enter those various organs, to reach them via the arteries of the blood. The nasal passage has to be cleared because oxygen is the real food. It's the fuel of the body. Deprived of that for 2 minutes, you will not live to tell the story.
So what are some of your future plans for the Usha Urban Research Institute?
Well, naturally, we plan to open a holistic center in Central America in the middle of the rainforest. And the reason for that is that when someone is suffering from these things we call disease, it is best to have them in a controlled environment where they will receive only the things that the body needs and that they will be distracted. They will not be distracted from noise and the invasion. Because when you start eating foods that you're accustomed to, once you smell them, it's going to trigger off a mechanism of the brain. Then a hormone is going to begin to demand of you that you ingest these things and eat them. But no, in the forest, you get the benefit of not smelling those things and also getting the herb fresh to you. Very fresh to you. Like we're going to open the place in Sambo Creek, in the beautiful lush forest, which you'll be getting pure oxygen. Then you have on the property a waterfall that is delivering water straight from Mother Nature to the cell that has the chemicals that is necessary. That is our plan. But as you know, it requires a lot of time, energy, and also finance. We agree. But this is our future plan to develop.
In closing, Dr. Sabi, what would you say is the most important issue facing black people regarding their health and well-being in a world that's overwhelmed with sickness and disease.
What is the most important thing at this point has always been the most important thing, our health. Instead of us entertaining history and anthropology, we were supposed to be entertaining health. Health meant that we had to follow the same road our ancestors lived in Africa. So right now, it is our health. Our health is the most important thing.
Go again with that bullshit. I just don't like they had the truth straight. Like to throw commercials and shit in them. Boy, they cut that shit clean off. Ain't that shit? Ordinary helicopter. Police. You got to get it. You got to get the issue. Bye-bye. It's live. Yeah. Now we're going to climb on here and watch the fireworks. There we go. Moon. Get the moon. Now look at the plane. I use the boat. And I get out there. We got one more set coming. That might be it. Yep. That's it. Go bring the product to the spot. Fireworks over. Go eat and shovel. Y'all just don't know how much I love y'all, how much I want y'all to take in the truth, to know the truth. Stop believing some bullshit.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming to the Masonic Temple. I'm proud to introduce from Honduras, Dr. SABB. Dr. SABB is a world-renowned healer.
Hello? Hello?
Let's give it one more round of applause.
Brooklyn.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, the naked head.
You know, y'all was fucking low.
You know why I'm there is because of you. You made me. And you didn't even know it.
I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and listen to your brother. Because I want you to know that your presence today let me know that I am supposed to behave accordingly, because you're showing me your love and your respect to the entity, to our ancestors. I love you. I came to America in 1954. I spent part of the banana boat with a pair of tennis, white pants, white shirt. Never been to school. The boy was 20, 21. You helped me to be what I am. How are we going to connect the dots with the continent on which you were covered? How are we going to connect the dots? We have to. Because never in the history of the black race have we been sick as we are now. In and out of Africa, we are sick. We are so sick that we can't even find a reason why we should come together. And you know something? It's a place. It's very important. Because you do not feed the food of the river to a polar bear and vice versa. If you feed the food of the polar bear to a gorilla, these people will be as we are. Because he wasn't designed for our food. His president, he did position, not designed to be meat. Who told us to be meat? The continent of Africa didn't have any cows, and they didn't have any land. They didn't have any goats, chickens, or cows. They didn't have any rice and beans and potatoes and yams and wheat. What did they eat? We are technology. We are theology. The paleontologists and the scholars who did not write about that. They write about wisdom. I never knew what that was when I'm 81 years of age. They talk about knowledge. I still don't know what that is. You know what is written in their manuals and their books? What we, not you, we were supposed to put in our mouth. You never read about that. Why? They didn't write about it because they too were suffering with the same disease that we all are suffering with. The mucus that I told the Supreme Court that represents the one disease is affecting our brain. It's affecting our brain so much so that when I went to the continent the first time many years ago, he asked me for a passport. And I asked the man at the immigration entrance, why do you want to ask me for a passport when this is the continent from which I was suffering? I need a passport to come back home. Could you imagine how sick we are? You see, we need healing. I need healing. So now let's go back to the pages of history. What the anthropologists and the historians write about, what the scholars dismiss. Whenever nature creates something, that something must follow a rule, a law. You will not find beavers in the desert. You will not find polar bears in the desert. You will only look in the cold. But you will never find a gorilla in the snow. Obey that law, that cosmic arrangement. It is like the little frog in the little compete. That frog seems to sleep. But if you remove that frog from Puerto Rico, 9 kilometers away to Texas, the frog dies. Because we have interfered. We have interfered with the constant arrangement of that frog. The frog was not placed in Jacobs. Black people were not placed in America. We were placed in Africa. But with that African placement, there was a mandate. Yes, it was a mandate. Black people, well, let me begin the process of showing what Mama was about. I happened to be in Brazil some years ago. And there was a conversation with a Mexican and a Frenchman. The Mexican was telling the Frenchman, you said, you know, we Mexicans make tequila. You Frenchmen will make tequila. We are men. And the Frenchman started laughing and said, you brought me a champagne. So I was laughing because you know the different one, the argument. So, the Mexican said, and what about you say? What do you have to say about your people? Because your mama didn't have your clothes on 500 years ago. My mama didn't have your clothes on. I looked at Raul the Mexican and said, Raul, did you have that also? He said, yeah, but your mama didn't have your clothes on 500 years ago. And the Frenchman said, why don't you defend her? I didn't have to defend my mama. He just said. But he didn't know it. You see, it's a matter of interpretation. The Frenchman, the Russian said, your mama didn't have any clothes on. He had no idea what he was doing. I said, I don't know. Why did you, all the items that Mama didn't have, you stopped on her clothes? But as for her clothes, you mean to tell me that my mama didn't have no clothes on and walked the jungles of Africa for millions of years, and all of her brothers and sisters and friends, nobody was jumping on her? She's not at all. She just messed up. You were showing off that Mama lived in a highly ethical society, a highly moral, that she could walk around without no clothes, and nobody was jumping on her. What kind of folks were living then? And if you want to know where the brain was, you take your clothes off, fools. and you walk the streets of Brooklyn and see what's going to happen, we begin to see that the contradiction that we have accepted is to be the very thing that caused our demise. Mama, the most powerful of all the genders of the gender. Mama, to tell you and I that the lion is the king of the jungle? Oh yeah. Who teaches what he knows? Who teaches the lion what he knows? His mama, isn't it? Because you never saw a cub in the forest following daddy. Never would you find a cub following daddy. Following mama. Because she...
Can I get more jacket?
She alone has the secret of life, how to raise a child, not a daddy. I am a daddy many, many, many times. I never tell my children anything. About one now. Society's here. My 34 years old son, I haven't seen him in some time. I never beat his son. I never did his son anything. So now, we come back to mama. Now it all said she didn't have any clothes on. She didn't have any clothes. She didn't have any doctors. She didn't have any medicine. She didn't have any hospital. But she didn't have any disease. You know why I know that mama didn't have any disease? It's simple. It's very simple. That's what I know that she should not have been looked at and categorized as a savage. Because she lived in an alkaline world. And it is alkalinity that brings about tranquility. Mama didn't need a hospital. She lived in an alkaline world. And it is mama that prepared me to this journey. How? How does she connect the dots? Very simple. Mama didn't have any money, she didn't have any alcohol, she didn't have any prostitution, she didn't have anything that we have today in the civilized world. Mama lived connected to the laws of life. She couldn't make any mistakes because she didn't read any books. I have not read any books. My son is 34 years of age. He didn't see daddy read any book. Same books in herbology. And I read those to find stupid. Don't you feel stupid? Every book that has been written on herbology is a lie.
Don't you feel stupid?
If they were true, you wouldn't be here today. You were here because you heard the doctor say you cured the diseases that hasn't been cured.
Don't you feel stupid?
Of course.
Made you look stupid on broadcast. You dumb kid.
I do it for you, what you did for me. I was a civil engineer making a lot of money. But I was satisfied because a Mexican had healed me. And I know that healing could be a thing, that we could receive healing. That healing was true. But all the herbalists in America was reading these books, but they never giving you peppermint, and they were giving you echinacea, and they were giving you golden seal, and not to mention aloe vera, and noni, and moringa. They give you all that. You know why they did that to you? Because you had both eyes closed, and they had one eye open. But that was taking advantage of an individual. You don't do that. You respect your family. Yes, you do. You respect your family. So the only reason why you may have offered them these poisons, either of ignorance or I just don't care. Well, no, we're not going to do that. The time has come that the elasticity is about the power. Look at Africa. Africa is loaded with disease. Ebola
Make y'all look stupid on
not the
my
disease of
broadcast
Africa.
and y'all always leave.
The disease of Africa is what?
You making yourself look stupid because it don't make no fucking sense to kill somebody that never killed you. They never did you shit. Just help you finish one of your fucking missions. That's stupid. But that's shit that stupid ass kids do. Unless you're a stupid ass fucking adult that the kids done turned out.
I go to a plant known as CNOS. Why? Because the active ingredient is calcium. When I want to learn the drug, I go to the burnout, I go to the sarsaparilla, or I go to the other one which is on a Tensino. Because their active ingredient is iron. Whenever you talk about birds, what do birds eat? Seeds and fruits. Please don't tell that to an eagle. He eats meat. He will eat meat. He will eat you. But he's a bird. But if you leave that bird and go to another bird, like the lovebird and the quetzalcoatl guatemala, they eat seeds and fruits. Everything has a food designed for them. What is our food? We don't know food. Because our school teachers, our anthropologists, and our historians didn't write about that. So don't even look for it. And if we are not eating the food that is consistent with our cellular predisposition or with DNA, we are crazy. We are out of our mind, and I'm one of them, I'm one of you. The people was born sick. I was born with asthma. I was born with bronchitis. A baby is born sick.
Thank you.
Yes, a baby is born sick.
But a baby
Mama,
the mom will eat.
what did you eat with daddy before you went to bed that night to make me? Well, one day we eat crab, the other day we eat lobster, the other day we eat conch, the other day we eat shrimp, the other day we eat hog, the other we eat chicken and cow. And you repeat it in the cycle. The sperm that was injected into my mama 81 years ago that is responsible for me today. We think that it was of the quality of my father in Africa 600 years ago, that it was not impregnated with blood or salt, which is acid. Come on, you know we're sick. We are sick, but we do not criticize ourselves. Because nobody is out of it. I'm in it with you, just as sick as you, and maybe even sicker. But to rectify that disease state is what we have for today. Not to criticize anyone. We're here to change it, to rectify it. and to bring back the love that existed long time ago with us. Because we are still love, but it has been umbrellaed or tempered with what? With rice and beans, hot mouths and chimneys. Yeah. And I was telling my son just now how I appreciate him. Because for many years, since I used to hate to see me sleep and eat fish, I used to always text with him. And he didn't like that. Well, Daddy left that a long time ago. But I said that there are some others wrong. Because that is the degree of the conditioning that we facing. So I used cocaine once. I was going to Peru where I bought cocaine for $100 an ounce. I left that really quick, but it took me a long time before I left that rice and beans. Isn't that something? So now, brothers and sisters, that's what saving your brother that came to New York, and you supported him. All of you supported us to take it. And I appreciate that because when I was arrested because I put the ad in the newspaper that I cured AIDS, sickle cell, lupus, herpes, blindness, cancer, and others. Hey, look, I'm like you. I'm representing you, whether I like it or not. And I wasn't going to misrepresent you. Under no circumstances.
MMI, we expect the
I met a young man in Los Angeles.
Anything?
The ethnobotanist. I said, what are you studying? Chinese medicine. I said, you look Chinese. He died. I met another black man in Chicago, Dr. Sidney. What are you studying?
Can I get like
I'm studying
maybe 3 or 4 of your
you look like a British.
of your the hydro pill? It's not for me, it's for my friend's mom. The hydro pill? The pain pill?
What pain pill?
The hydrocodone pain pill.
I don't have no more hydrocodone pain pill. All the rest of that stuff is just that go with that hydrocodone.
Huh?
I think all the rest of that stuff is just that shit that went with that.